HPP, the podcast that covers college basketball and the NBA draft inside and out. I am Rich Harris, and thanks for joining us again. I am joined by Jake Copestick. We're going to focus this episode on our off-season NBA draft grades, but before we begin, we're going to do our regular weekly segment, our College Hoops Notebook, and Jake and I will talk about that before the rest of the crew joins us. So, Jake, I know you're having a little bit of laryngitis or something along those lines, but how you doing otherwise?
Yeah, I'm good. Besides that, I think I still might be feeling the effects of 4th of July a little bit. I had a great time there, but maybe I had a little bit too much.
Where were you?
Oh, Seattle again for the fourth time. I'm such a lucky guy.
Nice.
I'm a lucky guy getting to go down there that much. So I went down there a couple days, and my voice started going me a couple days ago. So whatever I still got, Rich, is all for the College Notebook and the draft grades. I hope I have that much left. Like I told you before the show, I tried to not talk as much as possible the last 2 nights, and hopefully I saved up enough voice that I got it for the next couple hours.
All right, excellent. You know, here at Hoops Prospects, we love players who go out injured, not 100%, and or team first. You're my type of guy. All right, so a lot more West Virginia news, and we'll start off with that. So hit me. What's going on with West Virginia? And I know there's still a lot of moving parts there.
Yeah, so before I get to who's staying, who's going, who they brought in, because they did bring in a guy today. Bob Huggins is apparently trying to sue the school, says he never formally resigned at West Virginia. They've already announced his placement in Josh Simon. The last time we were on, we talked about, and it's already been, it's a done deal already. They have their interim coach. I think they wanted to hire a long-term replacement. It didn't play out that way. But he's apparently trying to sue the school, claiming that he did not resign. He put out a statement that he was retiring. In the first paragraph, he said he announced his intention to retire. But he's claiming that wasn't, grounds enough for a resignation. So he wants to sue the school. They sent a letter to the president saying that he never officially resigned. And I hope it doesn't get ugly here, because this is a bad way to
So is it kind of like when a player says, I'm going to retire, but he hasn't really filed the paperwork? Like Tom Brady, I think, has done that before. Like he said he was going to retire, but didn't file the paperwork, so he wasn't officially retired. And now Bob is having second thoughts. Is that what this comes down to?
The way that this ESPN article says it like West Virginia is in quotes is taking the position that Coach Huggins voluntarily resigned and terminated the employment agreement in advance of April 30th, the day his contract was set to expire. However, although the press statements purport to have resignation communications directly from Coach Huggins to the AD, Coach Huggins has never communicated his resignation to the AD or anyone at West Virginia. To the contrary, we understand that the purported resignation is incredibly based on a text message from Coach Huggins' wife, who apparently put out such statement. So I don't really know what to. I thought it just sounded like this was a terminated contract, that there was still nothing here. So I didn't think there was any rights, or like he had the chance to come back. He's claiming otherwise.
So who West Virginia terminated his contract based on he had resigned, right? Not based on behavior things.
Well, it's like he resigned before he got fired. I think that's where they were headed, and out of respect for him being that late in his career, I think they wanted to give him, the ball in his court, allow him to step away. And when he put out that statement, they took it as a resignation. He's claiming that it's not.
Right. Well, yeah, I suppose, they should have probably officially talked to him, and not done this through hearsay or the media or whatever, right?
Yeah, I thought that there was like an agreement here, though, because I know that pretty sure they said, like, when this was all going down, like Huggins was going to meet with his team, and then beforehand was like going to meet with administration, and they were going to talk about this. Like, I feel like it's impossible for them not to have any correspondence with each other. But I feel like this was like agreed This came out of nowhere. I saw this and was just baffled that he was taking that stance.
Right. Yeah, it surprises me too. But on the other hand, I mean, if it wasn't something that they kind of just said, okay, Bob's in a lot of trouble, he realizes this, it's probably time for him to go, and they just go on an assumption that's based on other people's statements, or even a casual statement by him, you still should officially sit down and say, hey, Bob, this is what we're going to do. Right? I mean, you should have like a meeting, at least a Zoom, as close as you can come to face without being face to face. I don't know. I don't know. I have seen this. Before, and I know I always go into my psychologist mode, but as people get older, they do start to, some people, start to act kind of bizarrely, and I think I'm not suggesting he has dementia or anything like that, but, we saw kind of Bobby Knight's behavior get a little more bizarre as he got older, and he ended up with dementia. And there have been other coaches, it seems like they have a harder time controlling their temper. They have a harder time, controlling themselves. So I hope he's physically okay. Of course, alcohol can speed up dementia. So again, there's actually a specific dementia you can get from alcohol called Korsakoff's, which was named after apparently a drunken Russian. But anyway, it can happen. And so, and he is going to be 70 years old. So I hope he's healthy. I hope this resolves itself in a good way. I would have loved to see him maybe I don't know. I think ideally he would have taken like a year off. They would have had like an interim coach, and then maybe come back for 1 or 2 more years, and then I'm retired. I'm retiring when I'm going to be 72. I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to come back for a year or 2, and then I'm going to call it quits. So he can regroup, and hopefully he'd be healthy. But I mean, I hate to see him go this way. Yeah, but all right. So let's move on to the player situation, which is getting pretty complicated.
Yeah. So guys are leaving. Guys are staying. Obviously, Kirk Risa said that he was going to stay. Raekwon Battle said that he was going to stay. Jesse Edwards is also going to stay. So as a grad transfer from Syracuse, averaged 14.5 points, over 10 boards, almost 3 blocks a game last year, and was putting up some big-time box scores late in the season. And now he's going to stay, which is big because they got a couple bigs that are out the door. Before I get to them, talked on Joe Toussaint. He committed to Texas Tech, averaged a career best 9.4 points, 2.8 boards, 2.6 assists, only season there. I think there's a perfect fit for what Grant McCaslin wants to do. You need a guy like Toussaint who's a pest, who's a good defensive guard where he's going to make his living. And if you know anything about the way Grant McCaslin played at North Texas, they're going to grind you down to a halt, play very slow. Mm-hmm. And a guard like Toussaint's going to fit right in it. I think is going to fit that style very well. And I got to say, you look at all these transfers that Texas Tech brought in. Chance McMillan from Grand Canyon, Darion Williams, your guy from Nevada, Warren Washington and Devin Cambridge from Arizona State, Kyron Lindsey from Georgia. Some of the returning guys they have, Pop Isaacs, Lamar Washington, some of those guys. I think they're like this could be a potential tournament team. I really do. I really like Grant McCaslin too. So, icing on the cake. I think
at least a few of those guys you mentioned are pretty versatile defenders who can defend multiple positions. Use it in a switching type of defense. And I really like Isaacs. I think he really quietly, of course, he was injured for a little bit there, but I was impressed with his game. The scoring is going to be the issue. And I don't really think they have an established big that they can count on for some like 15 points a night in the post, do they?
No, AMAC's gone.
Right. And
I would imagine
O'Banner's gone.
Yeah, he's gone. So I would imagine Warren Washington's playing a lot of minutes for him.
Right.
The offense is going to have to be there. But I think I know
Washington's more of a rebounder, shot blocker, rim runner than he is post scorer.
Right.
Right.
So they're still, I guess, missing that. But he's like versatility and the athletes they brought in. Defensively, I think it's a tournament team. Offense will have to.
Right.
So moving on, Muhammad Wag transfers to Alabama. A little note here: before he played one season at West Virginia, he played at Harcum College in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, not too far from me and you. Appeared in 28 games last year for the Mountaineers, 4.1 points, 3.1 boards. Played sparingly, but he's going to a team in Alabama that needs bigs. They did bring in Grant Nelson, but they lost Noah Gurley, Charles Bediako, and Noah Clowney. So to bring in a guy like Muhammad Wag, who blocked a ton of shots at Harcum and didn't really have the playing time to show that in West Virginia, I think he feels a need, especially this late in the process too. Feels a big need for Nate Oates.
Right.
Also, another big transferring out of the program. James Okonkwo took a visit to North Carolina. Not very long after that, committed to the Tar Heels. He played in 31 games last year, 2.5 points, 3.2 boards, 6'8", 230-pound forward. Again, not a guy that played but played a lot of games, but minutes-wise, he's probably going to a team that will need some size and some big men behind Baycott and Jalen Washington. Adds to a really good transfer haul. I gotta say, UNC. I know we have mixed opinions on Harrison Ingram, but Paxton Wojcik from Brown in the Ivy League is a good player. Cormac Ryan, Jalen Withers. I like the team that UNC. At least with the portal, I like what they did.
And of course, they have James Washington too. Who didn't get a lot of minutes last year, but when he played, he was pretty darn impressive. He could play the 4, the 5, and of course they have Davis, RJ Davis. At the point guard, and he won't have to. He'll be able to be more of a point guard, I think. I think having Love leaving, I think it's going to benefit him. So,
I would agree. They had to kind of blow it up, so to speak.
Yeah, right.
They had to
because those two specifically didn't get along.
Nope. So good that they went their separate ways, and they had to, like I said, they had to overhaul. I think they just needed a lot of new faces there.
Yeah.
So, last point on who's going out at West Virginia and leaving. Kind of a sad story here because I feel bad for this guy. Jose Perez announced that he was going to enter the transfer portal. He had to sit out last season. He transferred from Manhattan right before the season started, or just after it started, in the aftermath of Steve Masiello being fired abruptly 2 weeks before the season started. This was a cold draw for Perez. Entered last season as the preseason MAC Player of the Year. He will be going on to his fifth school. Started at Gardner-Webb, went to Marquette. Wojciechowski gets fired, then goes to Manhattan. His coach gets fired right before the season starts. Goes to West Virginia, and then obviously the Bob Huggins situation plays out the way it did. So he's going to be on his fifth school. He should get a waiver, and I almost feel bad to the point where they should give him 2 years. But he's had so many transfers it won't happen. But you know what I mean. You just see a guy like this.
But he doesn't have to transfer, right? I mean, he could stay right where he's at, right?
Yeah, he could stay where he's at. But at the same time, the head coach that recruited him and that he sat out an entire season to play for, which I thought was garbage. I thought they should have let him play the raw deal he got in Manhattan. I thought they should have let him play immediately, and that goes for anyone who transferred out of Manhattan last year.
Right.
But, for him to now he's eligible to play for the guy that recruited him, and he's not going to anymore. I understand. And he will, of course, at waiver wherever he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, Gonzaga, Georgia Tech have reached out to him, so it seems like he's getting offers to stay at the Power 5 level. And compete there, which is good. Wishing all the best for him because it's a lot of stuff out of his control has happened to him throughout his career with coaches that have kind of forced him out of the situations he's been in.
Right.
So last point, Jeremiah Bembry, who redshirted at Florida State last year, a 3-star redshirt freshman. He's transferring into West Virginia for a change. We talk about somebody coming into the program for the first time in a while, in a long time. So West Virginia's got somebody coming in. They only have 8 or 9 spots filled right now. So to get a guy who's got 4 years of eligibility is big for them, both long-term and right now. Because with guys coming out, and there's not much time to bring other players in, it's tough for them to kind of complete and throw together a roster now. So big for him. Bembry will be able to play. And like I said, short term with depth and just guys, they need bodies. And in the long term, you got a guy who redshirted, he's got 4 years to play and has been in college for a year. Really good move here for West Virginia this league process.
On a side note, Leonard Hamilton's lost a lot of guys this year. Very unusual for Florida State to have people leaving. I don't exactly know what's going on there. I mean, they also brought in a fair number of players, but they definitely lost more than they gained in the portal. But they haven't been very good. It's such a shame. The COVID year, they were so close to. I mean, the COVID year, they were my pick to win it all, and ever since then, they haven't been the same. And you almost feel like that was Leonard Hamilton's shot, but hopefully not. All right, so we have some other notes from different schools. Starting off with Paul McCahey, who I think we've touched upon a few times. He's a big point guard. Can play shooting guard. He's done a little bit of both at Rutgers. A player I like, and he joins a pretty decent haul for Washington for a struggling program. They got some decent players coming in from other schools. Probably the guy I like the most is Moses Wood from Portland, who can really shoot.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I too really like Paul Mulcahy, especially as a grad transfer. And it doesn't really matter so much for him because he's got one more year left. But like this also could be a make or break year, or I shouldn't say. I think this is a make or break year for Mike Hopkins. I don't really understand this because Rutgers. He was part of that class that started to win at Rutgers.
Mm-hmm.
Would have played one more year there, where he's from. I think he's from Bayonne, New Jersey, or is from that area,
right? And
he transfers late. He goes across the country to Washington, where although they have a nice haul here, they got Sauber, Wheeler, Anthony Holland from Fresno State. I don't know. I feel like I just don't really understand this. Apparently, there was a lot of NIL money involved here, but to go across the country to a team that I don't think is going to make a ton of noise in their conference.
No,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think I love this.
Yeah, I hear you. This should be a decent team, but usually decent isn't good enough in the Pac-12 to get you into the tournament. You got to be like one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the Pac-12 to have a shot. And a lot of times the 4th team is on the bubble, So yeah, I hear you. It's a shame for Rutgers. I think, the Cam Spencer thing going to leaving to go to, where did Cam Spencer go?
UConn.
Yeah, right. That just started a chain reaction. I think Rutgers would have once again been up there, in at least in the middle of the pack of the Big Ten. But losing their backcourt and 2 of their 3 best players, Rutgers is probably going to be, toward the bottom of the conference, and unless they shock. I think it's going to be a shock to everybody if they're not.
Yeah, I feel bad because I really like Steve Pikiell. We talked about this previously, but with I think there's schools that are out there trying to lure his guys away. To be quite honest with you, I just feel bad for the guy. Like I think he's a really good coach, and especially to win at Rutgers the way he has, it's a shame. However, they are in the running for Dylan Harper as the number 1 player next year, and apparently, anytime he suits up and plays, he's got guys there. I saw at Peach Jam he had pretty much every assistant coach there. So I hope he gets him. But this late in the process to lose two really good defenders and two starters hurts a lot. And I don't see them being any. You're right. I don't see them being anything more than a middle of the pack team. And I think that's their losses. I think they'd even be lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. But I don't think Peichel has to worry about his job because he's definitely got the most out of the least in the Big Ten Conference. So I think there's enough people who follow Big Ten basketball. If for some reason Rutgers would make the crazy move and decide to get rid of him, I think he would get a job in 5 minutes. So
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So we got a few more transfers before we wrap up. Going to different schools. You want to and we have to talk about a couple more items. So I'm going to read them off. We have Ethel Horton going to Texas from UCF. Is it Wildens or Wildens?
Wildens Levesque.
Wildens Levesque. I'm not actually familiar. That's a player I'm not familiar with. Going from UMass to Texas A&M. Alan Breed is leaving Providence. He's been a good college backup point guard for Providence. Pretty speedy little guy. And of course, Javon Quinterly is still out there, but he visited with Memphis this past week. So anything you would like to say about those four guys?
I'll just touch on Quinterly real quick. I told you that I don't even know if he's got another visit set up, to be honest with you. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there to get him. If you put him next to Caleb Mills and the guys that Memphis brought in, that right there is a pretty damn good team. And look, if you play point guard, he's got one more shot to boost his stock. Why not go play for Penny Hardaway? That doesn't seem like a bad deal at all. So I think Quinterly's going to end up going there to spend his last year. And Memphis, if they get him, I think they're going to be pretty damn good next year. And when we'll start top 25 for sure.
Right. And in a conference, it's going to be probably not as strong as it has been in past seasons. Mm-hmm. Losing Houston would probably be the big loss there. Definitely be the big loss. And they're not going to have to fight with Houston anymore. So, all right. So we're going to move on to the latest with the New Mexico State debacle. Greg Heier apparently has been hired. And God forbid he's going to high school. He's going to coach high school kids. Great. You want to and also one of the guys who was involved in the sexual harassment of teammates apparently is leaving. He had committed to Northern Illinois and is now leaving. So what comments do you have about that situation?
Yeah, this confuses me that Greg Heier gets a job this fast. Now he is going to be coaching JUCO, where he did have a lot of success at Chipola and Northwest Florida State, where they won a national championship. So he was just hired as the next head coach at Mineral Area College. Oh,
so it's not high school. It's a JC school?
Yeah, it's a junior college.
Ah, okay.
Mineral Area College, located in Park Hills, Missouri, formerly known as Flat River Junior College. Here's the thing that confuses me the most. Like, this isn't a struggling team.
Right.
By any means. Since the 2012-2013 season, Rich, they are a combined 264-73. The only season with double-digit losses they had was their only season under 500, which is the 2013-2014 season. So that, to me, like if you're a JUCO that's in need of some rejuvenation here, you hire a guy like Greg Heier with a proven track record, so you'll take the bad press, but you're like, hey, if we want to win, this is probably the best guy available.
Right.
But this isn't a struggling team, which makes it more confusing to me that even in the aftermath of all that, they still decided to give him this job. And in the press release that Mineral Area College puts out, they list where he's been and his accomplishments, and then they say, like, we're aware that he comes with a lot of controversy, but we've done a lot of research on him and we think it's all right. Like we find that he'll be an asset to us, and he'll be a good member of the community. So God bless him if they think that's the case.
Yeah.
But with all the incidents that happened, to me, it just kind of speaks for itself. So you also mentioned the player.
I wonder if it'll be on SportsCenter when the cops come in during a game and take him away in handcuffs.
Hopefully it does. Hopefully it doesn't get to that, because I don't know how much worse it can get from where he's been.
Right.
He was also on staff at Wichita State when Greg Marshall got fired. He was on staff with Will Wade when the FBI probe happened. So unfortunately for him, like, last year was not kind of his first go around with legal matters while he's coaching.
Right. Speaking of Will Wade, we don't even have this in the notes, but he's going to be serving like a 10-game suspension, I believe.
It's 5 games.
Oh, is it 5? 5, but that's going back for what he did at LSU.
Yeah, Dr. Bradley is a player named in the hazing incident at New Mexico State. So on June 28th, this suit announced it was resolved. They had dropped charges, or a settlement was made. That settlement later became public, where New Mexico State agreed to pay $8 million to Deuce Benjamin and his father, and Shako Danuwu, who will split $8 million essentially for the sexual harassment charge. Greg Heyer, of course, gets dismissed in the case, gets hired immediately. But just a few days after Dr. Bradley, who was already committed to Northern Illinois and transferred there, he reopened his commitment and decommitted, or reopened his recruitment and decommitted from Northern Illinois.
So is there any chance that Northern Illinois said, please go somewhere else?
Well, what I was going to say is coincidence. I'll let you be the judge, Rich. I'll let you be the judge. But I do think that, that with the timing, maybe there was something there.
Right.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, we have the Mountain West controversy. Now we've been hearing ever since San Diego State went to the Final Four that San Diego State was a good candidate to move to the Pac-12. But I'm going to let you take it from there before, because now they are in a big fight. San Diego State is in a big fight with the Mountain West Conference.
Yeah. So San Diego State, basically, this is almost like the Huggins situation. They sent a letter to the Mountain West saying that they're leaving. Their new conference, they don't have one. They don't have an invite anywhere. They said they were leaving and they didn't have a destination. I don't know. Very confusing.
Well, everybody's been saying Pac-12, Pac-12, Pac-12.
And I think that'd be the perfect match, because now that you have the 2 LA schools leaving, to give them LA school who's been good at basketball, I think that the Pac-12 wants them. I think it's a good fit. But right now, the invitation is not there, as the Pac-12 works to get a big media rights deal that other conferences have and they don't.
Right.
So the thing is, if you announce your resignation, it basically gives you one more year in the conference, and then you have to pay an exit fee. So essentially, Mountain West is claiming that San Diego State owes them $17 million if they wish to leave next year, and they are withholding $6.6 million from San Diego State as part of their distribution for the academic year as part of the exit fee. SDSU wants to use this money to help pay for the exit fee, but the conference is withholding it from them. So San Diego State will likely spend next season in the Mountain West, then look elsewhere. And however, the conference will still feel the benefits of San Diego State on their run they made in the national championship game, estimated to earn the conference and $10 million over the next 6 years.
A total of $10 million or $60 million in total?
$10 million over the. I believe that's just $10 million as it is.
Okay, all right.
So they will get the conference will make a lot of money, even with.
All right. Before we run out of time, the Pac-12 is very much to blame for the situation they're in, and part of it stems from the Pac-12 network. For example, DirecTV never picked up the Pac-12. It's hard to watch Pac-12 games on the East Coast, where most of the people in America live. The Pac-12 has always kind of been, I don't know, arrogant, I'm going to say. And they've always tried to do things a little differently. And yet, I guess they thought the Pac-12 network was going to be a huge hit. And maybe it would be big if people could actually see it. Mm-hmm. But so many people can't see it. And now every other conference has like a huge conference deal where we can see every Big East game there's played. We can see every Big Ten game that's played. Soon we're going to be able to see every Big 12 game that's played. ACC, same thing. SEC, same thing. And Pac-12, it's hard to see their games. And so that's one of the reasons why they've created this situation where USC and UCLA said, hey, we're going to go to some conference that actually, knows what they're doing and isn't stubborn and still thinks it's 1980.
No, I agree 100%. And not only is it that, I don't have numbers in front of me for you, but legitimately the Mountain West might have a better media rights deal in terms of the quality of the broadcast and like the coverage it gets on CBS as well as the 810.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so, good point.
Like, and I swear every time I flip on the Pac-12 network, which is rare because I have it, or at least
you get it through Comcast?
Through Xfinity, yeah.
Right.
But it's like grainy, like literally, like just the quality of the broadcast, like is not nearly as good as a CBS or like the Big East is on Fox. Like it's just not as good.
Right.
Just isn't. And they need to fix that. If they're calling themselves a Power 5 conference, they're the only conference that doesn't have a media rights.
Yeah, exactly. And they are no longer, I mean, you look in at the end of the season for, I'd say, like the last 3, 4, 5 seasons, you look, Sagarin ranks like the conferences in terms of strength of schedule and just their overall strength collectively. Pac-12 a lot of times is like behind the Mountain West. They're behind the West Coast Conference. They're behind the A-10 or behind the American. They got to wake up. But yeah, I think maybe it's too late now. I mean, I think they may forever be like now on the same parallel as the Mountain West, I mean, population obviously works against them, but they still have Los Angeles, it's kind of, but yeah. But anyway, we'll end on that sour note. Hopefully, San Diego State's going to be fine, and I think the Mountain West will be fine, and maybe the Pac-12 and Mountain West should be working together instead of against each other somehow. I don't know, maybe making some kind of super conference or something like that, and get Gonzaga involved at least as a basketball only school. But which would be sweet. But we'll move on. We'll close the college notebook, and we're going to move on to our focus on today's show, and that's NBA offseason grades. And we now have a completely full crew. We have the Bay Area bomber Drew Barton is here. Cam Reel is here somewhere in hippie land in Idaho, I believe, or somewhere around there. Jackson Inagi is here from California. And Doc Luau, and where are you, Doc? Are you in Tampa? Are you in Philly? Are you in Brooklyn? Where are you?
Sorry, I'm in Delaware right now. Moving to Cleveland.
Moving to Cleveland for work?
Wow.
Yeah, to work for the Cleveland Browns. Gonna be their team reporter.
No way. Nice. For the Browns website or for the Plains Dealer?
ClevelandBrowns.com. So the Cleveland Browns, yeah.
Very nice.
Awesome.
Very nice. So you're going to still be able to talk about basketball?
The Cleveland Browns wouldn't. I'm going to talk to them. I don't think it'll be a conflict of interest. The conflict of interest would be with. I also work for USA Today at night, so that might be. But it should be fine. I talked to them. They said okay. I showed them an episode. They liked it. So let's see what happens.
The USA Today listened to one of our episodes?
One of my bosses, I had to send it to them to see to see if it would be okay.
I hope it didn't have any too many KPs in it.
No, it was fine.
All righty. So for those of you who weren't with us last week, what we basically did last week is we went basically up to the draft and maybe a few days after with some free agent signings, mostly undrafted players. And I think the one major trade we included in last week's discussion was the John Collins trade. And so basically we graded teams on their performance up to date, which was basically their draft grades. So this week, what we're going to do is we're going to be more looking at free agency and other trades that have happened over the last 10 days or so, and basically taking the draft grade and adding on to it what they've done and coming up with an overall off-season grade. So I'm going to start off the Hawks for my team. And again, we're going in alphabetical order. And if we look what they did, they didn't have much roster room to do a lot. And at first, I was ready I gave them a C minus, or we gave them a C minus for their draft grade. And I was like, wow, when they made that trade with Houston, when they got 2 second rounders and they got, I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden, they got Ty Washington and Usman Garuba, 2 former first round picks, and they basically got those guys for nothing. I'm like, wow, what a great move by the Hawks. But then we find out a few days later, they turn around and flipped all those guys. And for basically Patty Mills. So I didn't quite understand it. And so ultimately what they ended up with through those 2 trades is they ended up with Patty Mills and a second round pick, and they lost John Collins. So I personally am not impressed with what they've done, and so I'm suggesting we leave their grade at a C minus. You guys have any other thoughts?
I'm good with a C minus. I'm even open if we really did go to like a D plus, because I loved the pick to get Ty. Like, you gave up nothing, but then just give him away again. It just felt like you made a good move and then you kind of threw that move away. So I mean, I think C minus is fine, but
you're talking about 2 guys that are like 20, 21 years old at most.
Yeah.
Both of them are first round picks. Garuba was even a higher pick than Ty. You got 2 second round picks, and then you take you give those guys away, and you give a second round pick away to get Patty Mills. I mean, and some people are saying they're not even going to keep Patty Mills. Now, I would think that they'd want to keep Patty Mills because they don't have they don't have any backup point guards on the roster. They don't. So, as it stands, it was looking like Kobe Buffkin was going to be the backup point guard. But
and why not develop Ty? I mean, I think in our mock draft last year, we actually had them taking Ty Washington, if I remember correctly, to develop like just as a developmental guy. So
right, because we wanted to see them. Yeah. So again, they're still searching for a decent backup point guard now.
And is Patty Mills really a point guard? Is the real question.
Well, right, but they do have Murray. So I mean, if Murray and Trey Jones or goodness gracious, Trey Young are on the not on the court at the same time, one of those 2 guys can run the offense. So it's not your typical situation where you have one guard who's a ball handler and one guard's only a shooter. You have really starting 2 point guards. So it's not that huge of a deal, but still, I just don't get it. You made a great trade and then you turn around and flip it around for a 35-year-old guy. Yeah. Shall we move on? All right. The Celtics are also my team. And they too, we gave them a B for their draft grade, and that was more for all the draft capital they had signed, plus Kristaps Porzingis. Of course, they lost Marcus Smart. But since then, they really nothing has gone very well for that team since our last episode. I mean, they lost Grant Williams to Dallas in a sign and trade. They got him a little more draft capital, but not a lot. And this was a team that was already looking kind of thin on the bench, and their free agent signings were Delano Banton and O'Shea Brissett. And so to me, the team right now looks like one injury away from being a mediocre team. I just don't, I really didn't like what they did in free agency. I know they're obviously handicapped by the cap, but so I was going to lower their grade a little bit down to a B minus because they still did come away with a lot of draft capital. They still have a really nice starting lineup, but those guys are going to have to stay healthy.
Yeah, I like the Celtics team. I ain't gonna lie to you. I like their team, and I think right now that they stopped pursuing free agents because for some reason they think they could get Dame with trading Jaylen Brown. So, I think that is the best trade for Portland. But Well, they don't want to go there, so they optimistic about getting Dame. So I guess that's why they holding off on trying to sign or get new players. Same thing with the Sixers. They think they could get Dame too, so that's why they haven't traded James Harden yet. So every team think those two teams that they could get Dame, so they're just waiting it out to see.
Yeah, I was thinking, are they waiting to sign Brown to the extension because of the trade? Are they trying to keep some flexibility there? They don't want to lock him into a contract, and then are they?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's why Brown didn't sign an extension yet.
Right. So, anyone have a problem with me lowering their overall grade for the offseason down to a B-?
I mean, you could maybe stick at a B here. I mean, it's pretty good value to end up, turning the loss of Grant Williams, which the writing was kind of on the wall at this point in free agency, like being able to turn that into a sign and trade and get back some value. It's pretty sweet. And I like Banton and Brissett. They're both I do. They're both kind of depth pieces, but that's really all that the Celtics need. Banton's a pretty good passer. I mean, he would run point guard pretty often for the Raptors while he was still with them. And that's something that the Celtics needed, especially with Smart moving on. He was their best passer. So they get a little bit of playmaking. Brissett's a good depth piece. Kind of think of he's kind of like Jordan Walsh a couple years down the road. Pretty long wing that could slide down to the forward. I think they did pretty well for themselves.
Yeah, I guess that's where we differ. I know, Banton is somewhat like, Andre Jackson, he can't shoot, but he's a stat sheet stuffer, good passer, good defender, long defender. But he's still, on a team that was starving for guards, he still only could get 5-10 minutes a night in Toronto for 2 years. Brissett was on a team that was starving for a power forward, and he's never really had a great season in his 3 or 4 years in the league. I just think that this Boston team, when you look at, they lost Grant Williams, they lost Smart, and they gained KP. That's what we can basically say. And plus the draft capital. So to me, if you're looking toward the future, they probably have made a lot of, they've acquired a lot of second round picks. But if you're not looking that far ahead and you're a Boston fan, you're probably thinking, I don't know if we're any better than last year.
I don't think this is a team that should be looking towards the future, to be honest. They made a finals. They've been kind of right on that cusp for a while now.
Right.
It's time to push the chips in and win, because let's wait another year. Something happens to Jason Tatum. You're compiling all this stuff. We saw the Warriors. That's what they're going for this year. That's what we're pushing the chips in the middle. We don't need the young guys. It's time to win now. So I get Tatum's young, but I mean, KP has an injury history. You've sapped the depth. You got rid of Marcus. You need to win now.
Malcolm Brogdon's already hurt. Robert Smith is always hurt. Al Horford.
Oh yeah, Robert Will. Yeah.
Al Horford's how old. Much does he have left in the tank?
So I think this is a team that they can try to balance these two timelines all they want, but they're going to look really dumb if they hold on to all these picks in 4 or 5 years and have won nothing. Say that they drafted 2 second-rounders instead of 1 second-rounder. Yeah. That's just my opinion.
No, I think that's an excellent point. You're right. This is not. It would be nice to be able to do both. To build your team to win now and also be collecting the draft picks. But for a team that's so close, they really should have focused on now.
Wait, but who in the East is better than them right now? They should be the undisputed #1 team in the East. Miami is not better than them right now. Miami guys going to get worse. Milwaukee already got worse. What's his name? Didn't they lose Brook Lopez? No, he's signed back, but they got
Milwaukee. I think Milwaukee's actually gotten a little better myself, but
we've been saying this about the Celtics. All I'm saying, though.
Well,
We've
they're
been
at
saying
least
they're
the
like the
same.
best
They're at
team.
least the same.
Nah, Drew
Right.
Holiday took a step back last season.
Oh,
and
that's
Middleton took a
true.
step
That's
back.
true. That's true.
They two big players, Middleton and Drew Holiday, took a step back last season. So next season they just gonna never step back. Boston young core and Boston main stars all together is better than Milwaukee's big three or whatever you want to say. So
We've been
still
saying
think
that though for a
Boston-
while. I think that's my point. Like we've been saying they've been right there and they still can't get it done. So it's like whatever you've got to you keep pushing more and more chips in the center because for the last couple of years they've been right there. They've been right ever since they went to Game 7 against Braun in what was it 2016. They've been right there and have kept falling short. So it's like that's I think where points like I'm kind of tired of giving them the benefit of the doubt because they've let us down every time. We always ride with them and they choke, like they lost to an inferior Heat team, for example. And, you know, the Warriors, they were probably better than the Warriors and they still lost to them. So it's like, at what point are we going to start holding the Celtics a little bit more accountable to get over the hump? You know, this isn't rookie year Tatum anymore.
Nah, yeah, I understand holding them accountable, but I just don't see a team in the East better than them right now. Honestly, definitely
Well,
not the
yeah, but
Sixers.
that's not the discussion. We're trying to figure out, you know, how did they do in terms of, you know, off season, and they really, you know, well, we've already talked about it infinitum, but we're arguing over a B and a B minus.
Yeah, I like that. I don't mind the B minus. I don't mind a B minus, honestly, but I think getting KP was big, in my opinion. I think KP is
if
not.
he stays healthy.
He was healthy last year, though, right? With the Wizards.
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's his turn to now he's due for another injury. But anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on to Brooklyn. And that was Jake's team. Jake, what do you got for Brooklyn?
I gave them a B for their draft class. They got Noah Clowney, they got Tariq Whitehead, they got Jalen Wilson. They didn't have to move any picks up or down to get all of them. And so I gave them a solid B for that. I actually gave their off-season grade a B+. I bumped them up a little bit. These trades where they dump Patty Mills, they dump Joe Harris, so they had to dump Joe Harris and give the Pistons 2 second-rounders to take them. But they did get some cash back. For me, like, those don't really move the needle. And if you're going to go to a youth movement here and retool a little bit, and, you know, they're not going to compete right now, but for them to dump those guys and then take a flyer on a Lonnie Walker, take a flyer on a Dennis Smith. But for me, like, the most important decision they had to make, even though they have a bunch of assets, they could acquire a Dame Lillard or somebody like that. I thought the most important thing they had to do was re-sign Cam Johnson. In the playoffs, they played my Sixers. They could not score outside of Bridges and Cam Johnson. If those guys didn't have it going, nobody really did, and that's why they got swept. So they needed scoring. They kept Cam Johnson, and it's weird to say because it feels like he just got drafted, but they locked Cam Johnson up for what should be the prime of his career, being an older guy drafted. So with the draft class that I thought was good, they dumped some salary and some older guys. They even got a second-round pick back from the Rockets, which was their own for the Harden trade. They re-signed Cam Johnson. They take a couple flyers in a retooling year here. I gave them a B+. I didn't think it was a bad offseason at all for the Nets.
The only thing I would have liked to see them do is come away with a more physical center, because Clowney is thin as a rail, Claxton's thin as a rail, but I think with a good center, this team could be pretty darn competitive. But as it is, I think they're probably going to be right on the edge of the play-in. But yeah, I think overall they did a good job. Anybody have any comments about Brooklyn?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of a question for the crew. I mean, the Nets are pretty clearly, I mean, if not kind of the favorites to get Dame, I mean, outside of Miami, definitely going to be involved in some sort of 3-team trade if he does end up in Miami. We think that the Nets have enough to just trade for Dame straight up? And would that be good for their franchise or no?
No, if you're going to give up, well, I don't think anybody's should be untouchable on that roster except for Bridges. So if they can keep Bridges and get Dame, great. But if they're gonna, but even I don't know. I still think they would also have to keep Cam Johnson to be competitive.
He also wouldn't be available in a trade because of he just re-signed.
He just re-signed.
Right. Actually, what this team could use, and I know he's not one of my favorite guys, but actually, Ayton would fit in nicely with this roster. You put Ayton on this team, and this team all of a sudden becomes a playoff contender.
Thought you wanted a physical center for them.
I want a body. I want somebody who can block shots and rebound. But yeah, you're right. He's not my favorite guy. But I mean, he's a hell of a lot. Got a lot more beef on him than. I mean, you put Claxton and Clowney together, and they add up to Ayton.
That's true. Yeah, I just think it's wild to see. Like, I've seen so many people like spouting off about how they should get Dame, and I just think this team's so far from being ready.
No, I agree. I think they should go the route they're going, and they can be a facilitator in the trade. But the one piece I think really should be untouchable, beside maybe a couple of their draft picks. I would hold on to Whitehead and Clowney. I think they got nice steals there. And I would hold on to Bridges, and everybody else. I'm looking over the depth chart. Yeah, they're free to go. But
this team should not touch Dame. Did they not learn? If they go for Dame, that means they've learned nothing in the last 12 years. This team
going all the way back to Garnett, Pierce, and
getting Dame would make this team in terms of playoffs. It would probably be worse. They wouldn't go any further in the playoffs, even with Dame, because they'd have to drain the bench of any viable contributors. So it'd be Bridges and Dame versus the Celtics, no chance. And then they would suck 5 more years into the future. So this can go to an A grade if they facilitate a trade and pull some picks or some young players back in. Then I think this can go to an A grade if they're able to be that third team in the Dame trade. But if they trade for Dame, I drop this down pretty low because they just blew it up again for nothing.
Yeah.
I really like that point because you look at the Nets ever since they moved to Brooklyn, they make these wild trades where they give up a lot, and then if they don't win right away, it sets them back. And then the one time they did have a little bit of success, they hit on some draft picks. They signed some good free agents. They made that trade for D'Angelo Russell, who blossomed into an all-star, and they just kind of took what they had, hit on draft picks, and they were fun. And it was a homegrown team. And then they traded away everybody, and they still couldn't get over the hump in the playoffs. So I think Drew's got a good point. You're lucky you recouped all the assets you gave up for all these guys, like a Harden. I think you just you don't need it right now. Just deal with what you have and just build with the assets you got.
Yeah, I mean, they could bring in some pretty great pieces too if they end up going with a third party route. Like any kind of mechanician that gets Dame to the Heat in a 3-team deal with them, they end up with Hero. That's a pretty sweet deal for Brooklyn.
Moving on to a team that has plenty of players and pieces that they could move to a rebuilding team. It's I'm talking about Jackson's Charlotte Hornets, who did very little after the draft. All they did really do was sign Miles Bridges. But with that team, when you look at it, I mean, they have so many guys that are kind of dripping with potential, including Kai Jones, who posterized Victor Wembanyama. Kai Jones can now retire and go to heaven. But that is the type of team I think that's has too many young players with potential and not enough punch. So they're the ones, I can see sending out 4 guys for one guy like Dame, that would make sense for a team like Charlotte. I don't think the Nets are in the same position. So Jackson, I kind of probably stole any thunder you may have had with the Hornets. They really, unless I'm mistaken, about the only thing they've done since we last talked is have Miles Bridges sign his qualifying offer, right?
Yeah, I mean, they had 4 draft picks. We really weren't expecting them to do a lot anyway.
The roster's stuffed.
Yeah, and they have so many young guys too. I think they just re-signed Miles Bridges and then extended LaMelo at max extension.
Right.
But I mean, in the draft we gave them B+. They picked up Brandon Miller, Nick Smith Jr., James Nagy, and Amari Bailey. I mean, I wouldn't really change the grade that much. I just had it at a B for bringing back Bridges. I mean, he was really, probably one of their best players when he played last, but he missed all of last season. He had the domestic violence, I believe, in the court case. I think it's resolved now. He got probation for a few years.
Oh, yeah, and he's got a 10 game suspension from the league.
Yeah, just about the season. So, I mean, talent-wise, keeping Miles Bridges is, it's obviously a plus for the Hornets, but I don't know, culture-wise, I guess it's questionable just because you have so many young guys, but
right.
I wouldn't have too big of an issue just keeping it at B plus. I mean, re-signing LaMelo is obviously they need to do that even with his injury concerns. Small market, you're not going to really be able to get a lot of free agents to come to Charlotte, so re-signing him to the max is good for them. But overall, just seeing who develops, I guess, with their roster, because just they have so many young guys, and seeing who sticks. So I guess I would keep it at a B plus.
Yeah, I actually think what they've done with Bridges and PJ Washington has been smart. Apparently, PJ Washington is asking for a small fortune, and I don't think he's ever going to be anything. But on a real contending team, PJ Washington would be like your 6th or 7th man, I think, and not worth over $20 million a year, which he apparently is asking for. Nobody else is giving it to him either, and he remains unsigned. So they extended the qualifying offer. It's looking more and more like he's just going to accept it because teams don't have the money to make a long-term deal that he wants, that he'll sign, and so you basically get Bridges for not much money this year, and you'll see if he behaves himself. You'll see if he's reformed or if he's going to be a knucklehead. And the same thing with PJ Washington. PJ wants a lot of money. Well, fine, you can go get it next year, but we're not going to give it to you this year. We're not going to overspend. So I would actually keep it at a B plus. I think they're doing the right thing with those two guys.
I was even going to maybe say A minus. I really like. Rich, I was going to just talk to the point of what they've done with Bridges and what they've done with PJ. Look, this is not condoning any of the stuff Bridges was accused of, but from a pure basketball standpoint, you bring him back for just the qualifying offer. We like their draft haul. Brandon Miller's been pretty bad in summer league. He's playing bad right now, but we like their overall draft haul. And I think we can't you did lock up LaMelo, whether you're a fan or not, you locked up a potential pre-annual All-NBA type talent for the next 5 years. I think that's an A minus off season. I can't believe I'm giving the Hornets that much credit, but I like their draft picks. You get back a 20-point per game scorer in Bridges for nothing for this next season to see what happens, and you re-sign a rising star. They didn't really have any major misses in the offseason. They didn't take on bad money. They didn't take any really wildly crazy pick. They didn't, lose out on LaMelo or piss him off. I think it's an A minus.
All right.
I could join you there. I could join you on that one, Drew, because prior to that offseason where Bridges kind of got into trouble, you could argue that he was their best player. And now they're bringing him back in at basically the veteran minimum. That's a pretty crazy signing. Granted, right, it had the number on his contract has nothing to do with his value on the court, but it's all of his issues off the court.
Right.
But man, you can even go back to their record. They were a bubble team, right in there in the play-in with Bridges. Without him, they're one of the worst teams. I think they're going to make it a pretty immediate jump just by adding him back into the roster. Plus this young haul of guys. They had a pretty nice offseason.
Yeah, the one problem I have with this team is they got a lot of guys who can score. They don't have many guys who can play defense. And Washington, the guy they don't have signed, is one of the few players on the team that does play defense. But I really think they should make a move, consolidate some of these guys. Maybe, somebody gets really hot in summer league and catches somebody. By the way, Amari Bailey continues to look good, at least when I've seen him out there. And they don't even have Cody Martin too. Cody Martin is a really underrated basketball player. He too plays defense, by the way, so that's a good thing.
He was kind of under the radar last year because they were so bad, but Mark Williams had a really good season for that.
Right. Nobody's talking about Mark Williams, but he's another one that can play defense. So yeah, they do have some. Yeah. So it kind of it's just of their 4 draft picks, 3 of them were basically noted as mostly offensive players. I'm not saying that Bailey can't play defense. Miller, he's not bad on defense either. I really didn't study Nick Smith on the defensive end, so I can't speak to that. But he was never known for his defense coming into Arkansas. So, we'll go with A-. All in all, but I think this is a team that should maybe consider making a trade. We'll move on to the Bulls, which is also Jackson's team. Jackson, what do you got? You got going on for the Bulls? What was your original draft grade for them?
For the draft, I think we agreed on D+ for the Bulls. They just picked up Julian Phillips, and then Sanogo was an undrafted free agent.
Mm-hmm.
But free agency, they added Javon Carter and Torrey Craig, and then re-signed Vucevic and Kobe White. So for my overall grade, I bumped him up to a C- just because I like Javon Carter as adding some more point guard depth with Lonzo going to miss the whole season, and Torrey Craig also just giving them more depth. But I don't know. I can't really grade the Bulls too well just because their direction is still seeming like mediocre. I mean,
Right.
It's just doubling down on like a really old core that not going to win you a championship or even going to they didn't even make the playoffs last season, I don't believe, just to play in. So, I mean, re-signing Vucevic and Kobe White is fine, I guess, if they're fine with just being the same as they've been the past 3 or 4 years. Or
Well, you want to talk about, though, a team that should, excuse the expression, but shit or get off the pot. I mean, they would be a team that should be looking to get Dame because basically, they don't have a point guard. So that means they're going nowhere with this group. They need a point guard. And if they could somehow, if they could throw out a lineup with Dame, DeRozan, Vucevic, and Levine, damn, they'd be putting up points left and right. Wouldn't be playing a hell of a lot of defense, but you see what I'm saying? I mean, right now they're like a team that is built to win now, but yet they're missing a huge critical piece.
Yeah, like I'd say they were pretty unlucky in having Lonzo just have that knee injury and being out so long because they were looking really good with him when he was healthy. But now that, he's going to miss the year and he might not even play ever again. So I don't know. This definitely seeming like they need to do something else. I mean, I know they've talked about trading Levine in the past and it's come up a bit this offseason, but I don't know. I just stick with a C- 3 just because it seems like they're not going to move the needle anywhere from the past season either.
Well, the 2 guys they got definitely defensive players, something that they lack. The one thing beside not having a point guard, they also don't have a lot of front court, like power forward types. I mean, they have Patrick Williams. And then he's going to be backed up by the 6'6" Torrey Craig. So they're going to be playing a lot of small ball when they go to their bench. So it would be nice if they had another big body in there. And I'm not sure why they didn't. I mean, they have a lot of guard types. I mean, again, another team that was seemingly should make a move. I mean, I have no problem with them being a C-, but I think, I personally would have left it a D+. What do you guys think?
I'd probably stayed
left D+.
Yeah. To me, like even their free agent signings, the Kobe White signing in particular, like he wasn't even probably the most promising young guard on their team.
Oh no.
And he's getting a 3-year 33. Like to me, he's one of those restricted free agents that you just kind of let dangle in the market and see if anybody wants him and match whatever it is.
Right. Yeah, they would have been better, like trying to sign somebody like PJ Washington who would have fit on the roster better. All Kobe White is doing is preventing Dalen Terry from getting playing time.
Yeah, I really didn't like that signing. Like he's making 11 mil a year for 3 years, which is like relative in the same ballpark as like Herb Jones, who's a way better player, way more impactful player. He's making DiVincenzo, like he's in the same ballpark as all these other kind of wing guard types, and they're all way better than him. And it's for 3 years, so like you're gonna spend that money and you couldn't go get one of these other guys, or at least like make an attempt to. I think they totally overpaid. Gave him way too many years, and he's going to be a non-factor in this rotation by the All-Star break.
And if if you don't have a plan to come up with a point guard, then why sign Vucevic?
Yeah, I mean that's the issue too. They're kind of in too deep with this roster. It's either continue on, keep chugging like nothing's wrong, and hope that all of the chips fall in their laps. I mean, a handful of injuries, they could end up being like a 3 or 4 seed. It's not out of the question. But are they competing for anything real? No, not with this roster. I mean, I can go down to a D just because I think the direction is at this point for them a choice that they continue to lock themselves into this direction that's going nowhere when they could just pull the plug.
Right.
To me, this is a pull the plug team.
Right. All right, Jake. So you had the Cavs. What was the draft grade we gave them in the D range? Is that where it was?
Yeah, I'm taking over for Booney here. He gave them a D. Now, my argument was that like they really didn't have any draft capital. They had pick 49. They took a swing on Amani Bates, and they got Craig Porter as an undrafted free agent. Added Georges Niang from the Sixers, added Ty Jerome. They re-signed Karis LeVert to a 2-year deal. I actually thought was pretty team friendly. I thought it was a good move for them. And then they acquired Damian Jones from the Jazz, which doesn't move the needle for me because of course Mobley and Jared Allen are going to play the bulk of the minutes anyway. However, they did acquire Max Strus in a sign-and trade. They sent Cedi Osman and Lamar Stevens a 2030 second-round pick in cash to the Spurs, and they sent a 2026 second-round pick from the Lakers to the Heat in the process. So I gave them a C. They needed depth. They got that. They also got some shooting with the minivan Georges Niang and Strus. However, I thought that they overpaid for both these guys, not to take away from them, but being a Sixers fan, like when Niang's not hitting shots, like it can be kind of frustrating at times to see him on the floor. And although I liked what Strus did this year, when they got into the Eastern Conference Finals and then into the finals, like he came up short in some big ones. So they needed depth, they needed shooting, they got both. Obviously they've been way more active in free agency than they have been the draft. But for me, with the overpay on both these guys, I gave them a C. I didn't think it was a bad offseason. However, I thought they overpaid a little bit. They got what they needed, and sometimes you need that. That's just what you do. You overpay for what you want and what you need. But the overpays on both parts here. With Strus being like their headliner, their big free agent acquisition, I bumped them up from a C from their draft grade being a D. Not crazy about it. But I guess in reality here, the Cavs got what they needed. So, thoughts?
Yeah, I agree totally. I mean, you look at, what they paid for Strus, and I don't know. I mean, does that mean they're going to – I mean, with that type of deal, you would expect him now to move into the starting lineup next to, Garland and Mitchell, and have Isaac Okoro come off the bench. But man, what a backcourt that can't play defense. Your wings and guards are all offensive oriented. So, and then if you're going to have Max be your sixth man, okay, I get that, but wasn't that LeVert's job? I don't know. I agree. They did try. And but I just don't know if this team is much better than it was last year. But I could live with a C.
Yeah, I think the little bit of a bump. I mean, that wing spot where Strus is going to play is what they were desperately needing in the playoffs. Just having a guy that could hit a corner three was something that they did not have. Yeah, I think it's a good pickup. They pay too much. So yeah, I think C's perfect grade.
You know what's weird about that team is they dominated defensively during the regular season. And that was partially due to Okoro and Mobley and Jared Allen. And then in the playoffs, the Knicks just beat the hell out of them. They just scored at will on them. So yeah, I don't know what to make it. What do you make about a team that played really good defense during the regular season, then comes playoffs, can't play a lick of defense?
Just young, I think, too. I mean, if you think about their best defenders were those three kind of bigs. It was their front court, is where their deep was like the heart of their defense. And you had all these young guys who never really played never played this many meaningful games, really, where they were going to be called upon to anchor a defense. And you play against the Knicks team that has a gritty coach, a gritty leader in Jalen Brunson. And I think I think Jared Allen said it. I think he said the lights were brighter than I thought they were going to be. And that was in the first round of the playoffs. So this is a team that is really looking at internal growth. I think this is the type of team that, like, these are guys they're signing, they're overpaying to try to shore up everything because they're banking on Garland, Mitchell, Mobley, Allen, like those guys that take that next step as a core. And they're like, screw it, we'll overpay for these guys in our second unit and really show some faith that our best guys are going to rise up and the lights won't be so bright because Niang and Strus have playoff experience. So they're probably just like, we can throw them into the fire as we make a deep run. They've been there before, but it's really on this core group of starters to really step up. Because at the end of the day, these moves don't matter if Mitchell and Allen and Mobley are bad in the playoffs again.
Right. All I'm saying is Amoni Bates, Niang, Ty Jerome, and Max Strus aren't going to help your defense.
I think in a lot of ways, the thing that really killed them was their offense kind of fell off the wagon against the Knicks. Because you can only run so much high pick and roll if you don't have a shooter in the corner. Because that help is going to just smother the ball handler. And then if you can't really throw the ball down to Allen on the post, which he's not great at, Mobley isn't yet like a guy that you can throw the ball to him and he can self-produce. I think going offense fits for their team, and you can rely on Allen and Mobley to kind of, just barely prop up the defense enough to make it sustainable. They showed they could do that in the regular season. I think I like the more of an offense move for this team.
Right. Well, it killed the Sixers not having one of those guys too. PJ Tucker was, just left wide open and couldn't sink a three to save his life for most of the playoffs, and ultimately that proved to be one of their downfalls. So,
wait, yeah, you guys think Imani Bates makes the team? He makes the G League team?
He's on a two-way. He's on a two-way contract. Okay. So we'll see. But he's not in their plans right now.
All
right. Well, moving on to Dallas. It's Cam. Mavericks been pretty busy from start to finish this year. What do you got for them since we last talked?
Yeah, so we left with the draft grade for the Mavs at an A-. They picked up Derek Lively and Olivier Maxence Prosper through a few trades, kind of wheeling and dealing on draft night. Thought they did pretty well. Of course, during the pod last week, they re-signed Kyrie Irving, which we all had a pretty big reaction to. But thinking back on it, you can't really quibble with the Kyrie signing. The fact that they were able to lock him down for multiple years, granted he could ask for a trade any day, and I wouldn't be shocked. This is a team that absolutely needed to re-sign Kyrie, if not just to bring back the asset. If things start to go badly, they can move him down the road. But I like some of the signings that they've done around the edges since then. Of course, we already talked a little bit about the Grant Williams sign and trade with Boston. The Mavericks pretty much, they didn't move a whole lot to get him. And I think they got a real upgrade for their sort of wing forward defender spot. He's a guy that can play up at the 4. He can play some small ball 5. He can play a big 3 if that's what you're looking for. They moved Reggie Bullock and basically an unprotected pick swap in 2030, which, they're not too worried about that right now. They're looking to improve now. I think that's a really good pickup for them. But then their free agent signings too, they bring back Dwight Powell, go and get Seth Curry on a really nice budget deal. I think that's a great pickup. They pulled Dante Exum out of Europe. Apparently he's shooting something like 45% from three now, so that might be a nice little depth piece to add to their backcourt. I think I really like some of these signings. I'm going to move them up to an A. They got depth pieces. They started to make up some of the guys that they've been missing in free agency. So I liked some of their moves.
Yeah, I do too. I really like the way they've upgraded their front court. With Williams, Lively, Rashard Holmes. Definitely like those moves. Anybody else on the Mavs? All right. We'll move on to Cam's Nuggets. What's going on with the Nuggets?
So draft night, we were all a little bit, reticent about their success on draft night. I believe I think started them out at like a C-. We ended up putting them at a D+ in our official score. I'm gonna stick around that D+ range. Obviously, they lost Bruce Brown to the Pacers on a pretty hefty deal. He's going to be making 20+ mil per season for the next 2 years. The Nuggets simply couldn't match that kind of offer, and really didn't have much of a choice other than to let him walk. They wouldn't have even been able to work out a sign and trade. It's a tough loss, really important part of their championship run. Another big guy, a signing that I wish that they had been able to figure out was Jeff Green. He ended up taking a deal with Houston. He's going to go in and be sort of the veteran in the room for that team. They also lost out on Thomas Bryant, who they brought in a trade with the Lakers at the trade deadline. They're letting a lot of guys walk, and that's sort of my hesitation in any sort of boosting grade. And as far as their rookie crop so far in Summer League, Hunter Tyson's looked pretty good. That's one of the things that's kind of keeping them from going lower for me, because in the free agent market, they have not brought a whole lot in. I like Justin Holiday. I don't know what positional fit he really is on a team that's contending. He's sort of a small.
I think he's going to come in for Porter, give you that offense, defense.
Yeah. He's pretty much, if he's going to be your Bruce Brown, it's a pretty clear downgrade.
Right.
So re-signing Reggie Jackson and bringing back DeAndre Jordan on like a 3-year deal, I thought was kind of insane. Again, just a guy that I think he filled in maybe 5 spot minutes for the team. Not a position that is super valuable for them. But I mean, a veteran in the room, I guess. I don't know. I think D+, I go down to D. What do you guys think?
I think Hunter Tyson, in order for this team not to lose a lot, is going to have to be this year's Christian Brown. Because I think he's going to have to pick it up. They're going to miss Brown's defense. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And you're right. There's nobody else that can really do that. So, but if I think,
Peyton Watson's looking like he's ready for some minutes.
Yeah, that's true.
So he's going to take up some of those.
He has the potential to be a Bruce Brown.
Yeah. But again, like these are all guys that they've had in their system that we're hoping can take a next step. But as far as off-season grades, I mean, I guess good job not overpaying Jeff Green just to keep him. But still, you got to kind of try and keep this core together as much as you can.
Right. Anybody else on the Nuggets?
Yeah, 2 small things here. So I think we might have touched on it last week. Like, although some of the picks might have been head scratchers, depending on where people had 3 guys they took ranked, like I do think it works for them. They made that trade with Oklahoma City, get the pick this year or next year, and like whatever future picks they had, they kind of used to get picks in the next few years. They just added a bunch of guys that don't need development. They were like, screw upside, screw all that. We'll just get guys we think they can help us. So I think for where they are, I didn't think it was a bad draft, but I can understand like they could have got this guy if he was undrafted or whatnot. Like I understand all that. And then I don't know why they re-signed DeAndre Jordan. Like watching him with the Sixers when Embiid was hurt 2 years ago in the playoff, he couldn't get out of town fast enough. Like I don't know why they re-signed him at all, besides Cam saying like he's just a veteran in the locker room. Like
It is.
I don't even see a reason for him to be on the Nuggets anymore.
No, man. DJ's knees have been gone for like 5 or 6 seasons at this point, and he's still sticking around. It's nuts, man.
Poultry guy.
Respect
everyone
for
loves
being
him.
around that long.
I think everyone just loves him from what it seems like.
Yeah, he's there. Haslam.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's inconsequential. But yeah, I mean, you make a good point. Watson could step up. I think Hunter Tyson. It's kind of funny though. We're all talking about Hunter Tyson. He was the last of their draft picks. He's the guy that we said that we liked the most. He's the guy that was highest on our draft board of the 3 they drafted. And so far, he's looking like the best of the bunch. So
for what it's worth, all 3 did look pretty solid in their summer league. Like all 3 of them, like Tyson was by far like the sharpest, but all 3 of them looked like, okay, they did what we expected them to do. They all played to the exact role that they played in college pretty well.
Right. All right, so we'll go back to Jackson with the Pistons. What have the Pistons been up to since we last talked about them, Jackson?
I think last week, we actually did talk about like Joe Harris and Monte
Well,
Morris.
it happened, but we didn't throw it into the grade.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's what they've been up to. They got Joe Harris from the Nets and Monte Morris from the Wizards, and then from the draft grade, we got him at a B. So for their overall grade, I kind of stuck with a B because I think Morris just adds more guard depth behind Ivy and Cunningham and Hayes. But I think Harris will definitely help out with their shooting, which they definitely need.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I think Detroit didn't really need to make a ton of moves because they have like the core of young guys right now, along with their draft picks they just had. And it's more about them. I think we talked about it last week, but just them stepping up and, just developing as the core that they have now. I don't know if they needed to add too much more. They still have like Bogdanovich, is shooting, adding Harris will definitely support that. But I mean, I don't know if they needed to make any drastic moves right now. It's more about just the young guys getting more playing time, in my opinion. So I think I just stuck with a B.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, getting Harris for nothing for a team that could afford him, why not? And definitely a team that, hurting in the shooting department. So I like that move. I didn't understand Monte Morris, though. I mean, why do you draft Sasser in the first round? Why do you have a former lottery pick in Killian Hayes on the roster? Didn't you bring in another point guard? I didn't get that one.
What it's worth, Rich, I've heard Hayes' name is on the trade. I've been seeing reports that his name has been circulating like trade rumors potentially. Like they might be looking to shop him. So that could be a reason why if they really are looking to push him.
But for this team, Monte Morris is the kind of guy you add to a team that's looking to be in the playoffs, and you want a solid guy coming off the bench like Denver used him. To me, all Monte Morris is going to do is impede the development of Sasser and or Hayes.
Yeah, but it's still the Pistons we're talking about. We can't give them too much credit for things. Like I agree, like it doesn't really make sense. Like let the young guys play, but if Hayes is in the market, I think Jackson's right. You have a guy that can kind of help stabilize a position if Cade's not like maybe 100% right off the rip. Monte can come in and kind of eat some of those minutes until he's 100% ready to go. But Pistons are going to Pistons.
Yeah, you got to think too, like bringing in a guy like Morris, even Joe Harris, Bogdanovich previously. You got to bring in some veteran players when you have a developmental team. right? Because it's all great to say like, oh, you're going to impede, their development by bringing in these veterans. We've seen what teams look like if they don't have veterans that know how to play, know how to do the daily life of the NBA. I would say bringing in a guy like Monte Morris, who's been around the league, he understands what winning basketball looks like. He's been a part of it before. I like the value that brings to a developing team more so than I do, giving Hayes an extra 10 minutes a game. And on top of it, from a roster construction standpoint, you can trade Monte Morris down the road and get value back for him, right?
That's
Trade
true.
deadline comes around, people are going to want that veteran guy that they can bring with them for a playoff push. So, I mean, why not? They're only paying a second-round pick to pick him up.
Yeah. Good points. All right, we're gonna move on to the Golden State Warriors. Drew, what have the Warriors been up to?
Yeah, so coming out of the draft, I had them at a C+. I know that we've talked kind of nonstop, or at least I know I have. I love the addition of Trace. I think he fits a need. I think he's an absolute steal of the draft at 57. I've also mentioned how I'm not completely sold on Podziemski, more so on just an organizational fit. Not that I don't think he can play. And since then, they've had basically three big offseason moves. They re-signed Draymond Green, 4 years, $100 million. I believe the fourth year is a player option. They just picked up Dario Saric, I believe, yesterday, and they picked up Corey Joseph. And so I ended up moving up to a B- because I like all three of these additions when you couple them with the additions of Podziemski, Jackson Davis, and Chris Paul. I mean, look, with Draymond, he is what he is. Like, we all know what Draymond is at this point, and I think you can make the argument from just a raw talent standpoint, $25 million a year annually is a bit of an overpay. But it's kind of like the point that Jake made with the Cavs. You got it. You got your guy. You know what you have in him. And if you overpay a little bit, you overpay a little bit. Like, this is a situation where organizational culture fit is just as important as the raw talent. Like, he's their offensive engine, and he still has enough in the tank defensively. Like, without Draymond, all their action that they run completely falls apart. And that kind of Warriors chaos ball doesn't exist really without him at the point of attack. So, you know what? Push the chips in the middle, pay the guy what he wants. On a small note, he is taking the money on the back ends to leave them some financial flexibility the first 2 years. I really like the Saric and Corey Joseph picks. I mean, the problem that this team has had for years and was really bad last year is they just didn't have any lineup stabilizers in that second unit, like true guys that can come in and play a role. When we saw them win, they had Otto Porter, they had Nemanja Bjelica, like they had Gary Payton for the whole year, like guys that would come in, play their role and stabilize. And that's what Joseph and Saric does. Joseph's a little bit redundant with Podziemski already being added. Like, now you have four kind of guards, but we know Chris Paul is going to miss time at some point. Steph's going to need rest throughout the year. Corey Joseph's just a solid veteran. He's a Spurs alumni, like a guy that you can trust, 10 minutes a night to relieve. And if he has to play closer to 15, 20, he can do that. And then Saric, we finally have a player over 6'10". You have a big who can rebound, can shoot, has played well with Chris Paul in the past. I was looking up some numbers of when they played together. They were super effective in pick and roll, particularly in pick and pop with Saric out to the three-point line. So I think they both fill needs. And then, I think right away, Trace Jackson Davis is going to be an impact rookie once he gets on the floor. I think he's got a 10 to 12-minute easy to see the floor. So I gave him a B-. They couldn't really make any splashy moves without like trading away some of those core guys, which wasn't going to happen. So I think the Warriors got better. I think they tried to, they got rid of the pool. They cleared the air on that, and they've tried to recapture the essence of the team that won 2 years ago. And I think they did the best that they could with what was available. I would like to see them add one more kind of forward. I would like to see them maybe even take a swing on like a Christian Wood. If he's getting offered the minimum, screw it. That's a guy who can rebound, hit the three. Warriors have been last chance youth for the last couple of years for NBA guys. Get him on the minimum. He comes in, gives us some good minutes off the bench, and then he wants to go sign for a bigger deal somewhere else, fine. But give him a B-.
Yeah, I like Saric. I was hoping maybe the Sixers would sign him. I always hate to see him go. I still think they need another body. Saric, has been troubled by injuries. Looney's up there in years. get one more guy who can block some shots, can rebound. Then yeah, I think B-, a little generous, but I could live with it. You said B-, right? Yeah, I can live with that. Any other comments on Warriors? All right, we'll move on. So we have me again with the Rockets, and they've been pretty busy. We gave them a draft grade of an A, and since then, they, like I said, they've been busy, but I'm not so sure how much they've gained. Their big free agent signing was Fred VanVleet. They're giving him Kyrie-like money. It turns out to be about $43 million a year for 3 years. He certainly will add stability to what is a very young club. On the other hand, you also, your top 4 pick, Amen Thompson, also plays the same position. So it's kind of weird that you bring in on a team that should be rebuilding. Your big free agent signing is the same as your number 1 draft pick. So, and the other thing is they brought in Dillon Brooks in a sign and trade. It turned out to be a 5-team trade. But when you break it down, Houston, to get Dillon Brooks, essentially gave up Usman Garuba, Ty Washington, Josh Christopher, Kenyon Martin, and 2 second-round picks to get Dillon Brooks. To me, this is a move that kind of a little bit delusional, and it smells of desperation for a team that wants to compete right away. It just seems like so much to give up for Dillon Brooks. Obviously, you throw Dillon Brooks in the starting lineup, Fred VanVleet in the starting lineup. Now they definitely look more competitive, but at the same time, it seems like they sacrificed, some of their long-term capital and long-term potential. And for a team that I think, even with Brooks and VanVleet, are going to be lucky if they get to the play-in. So yeah, I wasn't a big fan of. I thought, I just thought they should have probably stayed in rebuilding mode for one more year. Maybe let VanVleet go to some other team. Maybe not paid so much for Dillon Brooks, personally. So I downgraded him a little from an A to an A-. Anyone have a problem with that?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, I think the downgrade is my issue is more so the guys that they sent out. I would have preferred if they were moving off of like Kevin Porter Jr., moving off of some of their, more ball dominant players. I like Kenyon Martin. I think he fit into their team well as a depth piece. Ty, he's talented. Garuba's one of the only defensive oriented guys that they had.
Right.
So I would have liked for them to maybe centralize on some different guys. But I mean, you gotta bring in VanVleet. It's a big number, but I think he's maybe worth it for Houston. They need somebody that can handle the ball that's going to also not dominate it. So I think that's a good fit.
Yeah, again, we're going down to that argument, as I said, Amen Thompson, point guard, their fourth overall pick, their first pick, and they draft him and they sign VanVleet right after it. They both play the same position. So, it's from that point of view, you go back to, is that going to hurt Thompson? I mean, Thompson's already 20 years old. It's not like he's some 18-year-old kid. So I don't know. To me, they're just rushing to be competitive when it's not going to be, it's not going to pay off. All right. So now I also had the Pacers. Pacers been pretty busy themselves. We gave them a B+ for the draft, and I think they should be upgraded a little bit because if we break down the Obi Toppin and Chris Duarte, the draft picks kind of wash out. And so essentially they got Toppin from the Knicks and sent Duarte to the Kings. You can debate on who's better, but at least Thompson does fill a need, or Toppin does fill a need, where Duarte was kind of in the middle of a logjam at the wing, shooting guard spot. And of course, then they added the big free agent signing of Bruce Brown, who they didn't pay like an ultra ton of money to. And he's the kind of guy you want. Anybody would want Bruce Brown on their team. So it's just, tenacious defender, versatile, proven winner, and he's even become capable of playing the point guard and has improved as a shooter. I think it's a real good signing. Now, of course, again, the question becomes, can this club compete? But I think when you look at this roster, the way it's constructed, I actually do think they can compete. I don't think they're going to win the East, but I think they're going to make the playoffs. I really like the direction this team's going. I think these moves have put them into the playoffs next year. They'll probably be around 500 record, but I think they're in. And I bumped their grade up to an A-. Any problems there?
I think an A- is good, and I'm a big believer in adding in when they lock up young talent. Like I said earlier, they locked up Tyrese Halliburton. I'm a big fan of as their centerpiece. So yeah, I think A- is totally spot on.
What do people think about my prediction of them looking like a playoff team?
I can definitely see that. I mean, if all these young guys they have all the pieces that you'd want on a playoff team. They're all still really young. But if Andrew Nembhard can become that second unit guard and Halliburton continues to ascend as a star, and Buddy Hield and Miles Turner give you what you want in a shooting guard or a wing, and what you want a big. Bruce Brown I think is a really awesome addition to, like you said, any team. So yeah, this team, I'd be surprised if they don't make the playoffs. Do they win, make a deep run? No, but I could totally see this team doing what the Cavs did, getting back in. Hopefully being more competitive than that, but getting back in, and depending on where they fall in the first round, but win a couple games.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. All right, so when we'll go back to Cam and with the Clippers. Cam, what do you got for the Clippers?
Yeah, so they brought back Russell Westbrook on a really nice budget deal. We had a pretty stiff debate on their overall draft grade. I think we probably push it down closer to a D+. But they re-signed Westbrook. Really, really team favorable deal. I'm shocked that somebody didn't want him for a little bit more money. I'm kind of ballparking the number, but I think it was about $8 million a season.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Kobe White's getting more than Russell Westbrook.
That's insane. Man, the Bulls should have just signed Westbrook. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And they bring back Mason Plumlee on also a pretty team favorable deal. I believe it was about $10 million a season. That's pretty much the going rate for a backup center who can play spot minutes at starter. They didn't have a huge number of moves outside of that. They were part of that 5-team deal, and they ended up bringing in Kenyon Martin Jr., who we just talked about with the Rockets. Nice depth piece, super athletic, good defender, good rebounder, kind of a budget version of his dad in that way, but a little bit more of a wing. Not a crazy draft, not a crazy free agency for them. They're pretty much locked into their team. I'm going to sit them at a C. I like the budget deals, but nothing that's going to blow you away.
What does it say about Russell Westbrook? I mean, you think about all the players that are making, for those of you that can remember how he played in the playoffs, and think about that he's going to be making $8 million a year this year, and people like Kobe White are going to be making more. It's just astounding. Astounding. Russell Westbrook was one of the best performers in the playoffs this year.
I think he's making $4 million.
Huh?
Isn't it $4 million? Isn't it a 2-year deal? 8 for 2 years.
I thought it was 1 year. I thought it was 1 year for 8.
It's 8/2. He's making less than Dwight Powell, Troy Brown, Taurean Prince, Seth Curry,
He needs
Reggie
an
Jackson.
But I'm saying that's got to be a choice by him. That's
Has to.
got to be a choice that he's sacrificing. So when James Harden says he sacrificed and made $37 million last year, that's a terrible sacrifice, James. How can you live on just $37 million a year? Russell Westbrook is really doing it.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll move on to Jackson's Lakers. Lakers seemingly had a real nice offseason.
Yeah, Lakers are pretty busy in the offseason. So I think for the draft, we gave them a B with getting Hood-Schifino and Maxwell Lewis. And in free agency, they added Gabe Vincent, Cam Reddish, Taurean Prince, Jackson Hayes, and then re-signed Austin Reeves and Hachimura and D'Angelo Russell. So as far as free agents, I like the Gabe Vincent signing. I mean, if he can keep up how he shot in the playoffs, that's definitely a very plus signing. He competes on defense. I think he'll be a good fit next to LeBron and AD, so I like that signing. Cam Reddish, I think, is more of a flyer. He's still new with 23, and then it's kind of weird that he was known for his shooting in, I think, high school and college, but hasn't been able to in the pros. So I don't know, maybe playing off LeBron and AD will give him some more open shots a bit to knock him down. But that's more of a flyer, in my opinion. I think Prince will have more of an impact than Reddish coming off the bench, 3-and-D, hitting some shots. Jackson Hayes, I'm not so sure of. I think he'll bring some rebounding and shot blocking.
He should.
Yeah, I still think they can add another big for some depth. But I mean, it's a good signing for just rotational depth. I think just adding some more size in the inside. But I think they did well just re-signing the guys they acquired at the deadline, Hachimura and Russell, and then Reeves at a really good number. I think $56 million over 4. So, I mean, we had the Lakers at a B. I bumped them up to a B plus. I think just continuing on their good off-season or mid-season acquisitions and keeping those guys around, and then adding some solid depth with Vincent and Prince and Hayes, I think. So I said B plus.
I actually think they should be higher. I think they should be like A-A. And one of the things I like is not only did they bring these guys in on reasonable deals, but for once they didn't bring in 40-year-old guys. They brought in some guys with some upside. I do agree that they still need one more big body at center, just in case Jackson Hayes falls flat on his face. But man, talent-wise, that kid's got it. It's just, he started his basketball career really late. I think he was a football player, I think, at one point in time. But man, he can run, he can block shots, not overly physical, but yeah. So I'd like to see them bring in, one other big body, or maybe even just sign Castleton to like a regular deal. But I think they should be at least A-.
I'm with you, Rich. Yeah, I mean, just the deal that they brought D'Angelo Russell back on alone can push me into the A range. He's worth, he's capable of producing, and I know he had kind of a rough playoff run. He had some
2
really
years in a row.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, a guy that, literally last year was making in the 30 million range. You bring him back for 17. That's a really good budget deal, and bring that back for 2 years too is awesome. I mean, the fact that they could bring back Reeves and Hachimura after their playoff runs is insane. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that another team didn't want to throw 20 million a year.
How did nobody call their bluff?
Yeah,
I was just going to say, how did nobody call their bluff on either of those guys?
I know.
That to me is like,
it's incredible that
they wouldn't have been able to match.
They brought everybody back. They brought everybody back and then added other players that are better than the ones they had that they didn't bring back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'd take Gabe Vincent over what's his name?
Malik Beasley.
Yeah, I'd take him over Beasley any day.
Schroeder. I mean,
Yeah, I
I have nothing against
Schroeder.
Dennis. I have nothing against Dennis Schroeder, but I think Vincent at least gives you a little more shooting.
He does. Yeah. So the Vincent pickup was really great. And probably the most favorable contract out of the Heat guys that left. I mean, he's only making 10 mil a year. That's not too much to pay for Gabe Vincent. Would have been nice to bring back Russell Westbrook on $4 million though. But yeah, I love Jackson Hayes too. That's a guy that's kind of like a change of scenery guy that I've always really liked. Basically takes over the Mo Bamba minutes for the Lakers. So, I mean, all he's got to do is play defense, run, jump, dunk the ball. Nice pickup, especially for what, $2 million a year.
Former lottery pick.
Yeah, I remember when his agent got into a fight with the NBA because he didn't make the rookie versus sophomore game. That's tough work for Jackson Hayes.
It's just, I don't know what it is about Texas, man, but those guys got a bad track record. Those Shaka Smart Texas bigs, Kai Jones, Jackson Hayes, Mo Bamba. There's probably a couple others I'm forgetting. Greg Brown. None of them have really lived up to their billing. But anybody else want to talk about the Lakers before we move on? So are we bumping them up to an A-? Is that the consensus?
To me, I got the Lakers. I got them as like number one team in terms of off-season moves. I feel like they're the best team. I feel like they did nothing wrong. They did everything that was needed on their checklist. I think the only thing they didn't add, but it was nobody's foot on the get, was like another big name, like a third. LeBron in the 80s, like, won't be their closer. So that's the only thing they didn't get. But it's like there was nobody they could really get. Honestly, so I think they did everything they were supposed to do. I think Austin Reeves was the biggest deal for them. I thought Austin Reeves was going to sign to get that 120 deal that Tyler Hero on them got. So for him to get way less than that, I think Lakers to me A plus or A. I don't see no team that did better than them. I know the Mavericks had a good offseason, but I don't know. I just got the Lakers. I think they checked every box that they personally felt like they needed to check.
Yeah, I hear you. And again, it's not like, if looking forward, finally, they've actually signed some young pieces. So this team is like, if LeBron would retire tomorrow, all hope is not lost. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they have some young talent for once. So, which is very rare for that team. So yeah. We're kind of combining this with the draft grade, which we weren't super high on their draft grade. So, but I'm happy with an A. Give the Lakers an A, just short of an A plus. They might still end up with the best offseason grade because I forget who had the A plus, but that was Utah. So we'll see what we give them. All right.
Yeah, the only thing that I just only had a B plus. I mean, I could agree with A minus, but I still just think they need someone more on the inside just because I know.
Oh, I agree. I
mean, yeah, they did everything. I can't argue against any of their moves, but I would just say that they could still use someone like that'll battle with like Jokic or someone like that. But I can't argue against any of their. I don't think they could disagree that they had a really good offseason.
Yep, I agree. By the way, I'm going to just warn you guys, I'm having a nasty ass thunderstorm here, so if power goes out or whatever, you know what happened. But we're moving along at a pretty good clip. So next up is Jake on the Grizzlies. What do you got for us, Jake?
So I actually didn't move the Grizzlies. I kept them at the B grade I had them at. With what they did in the draft, they traded away pick number 25 to get Marcus Smart. They still ended up getting G.G. Jackson, which I thought was really good value. Number 45, got a draft and stash guy in Street Boborovich. So a couple things here. So you talk about the Dillon Brooks trade. They were able to get Josh Christopher back. Showed some real flashes of athleticism and tremendous talent, but that was also on a really, really bad Rockets team. Personally, if I were to move the grade, I think I would move it up. I was on the fence. Do I move it up to B plus? Do I keep it at B? I ended up keeping it at B because I like the Marcus Smart move to give them a playoff caliber guard who's gone farther than they have, can fill in aptly for John Morant when he's out, can give you a damn good backup when he's in. And even though Tyus Jones has played well, I would certainly say this is an upgraded point guard or at least backup for them. But it came at a price. Had to give up pick 25 this year. Had to give up the Warriors first rounder next year. And they had to move off Tyus Jones, who anytime they needed him to fill in for John Morant, did exactly what they asked for and then some. But to get Marcus Smart, to bring in D Rose, who on the court wise, not going to be a huge contributor, but I think when they getting a Marcus Smart and a D Rose who can hopefully mentor whatever they got to John Morant to get him right when he comes back from lies off court. It was a good move by the Grizzlies to do so. I just need some clarification on this, Doc. I know you said something to me in the chat about like the Grizzlies wanting the Suns or like the Wizards picks or somebody like that. Like, if anybody has anything for me on this pick, on this trade where the Grizzlies traded 3 seconds to the Suns for Isaiah Todd and pick swaps, like, just how I need some help understanding this because I don't think I'm still like fully like grasping the idea of the trade.
Yeah, I read that trade about 5 times. It was difficult to really understand that trade. The pick swaps. I think it was more about them wanting the other team. What? I think they have another team's picks, and it was being cautious about getting their draft pick just in case of which team going to be worse between the Memphis Grizzlies or the other team. I forgot what was the other team again. I forgot.
It was Phoenix. Oh, yeah, it was Phoenix.
Yeah, Phoenix. So whichever one of those two teams would be worse, I guess. I don't know. I don't think the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be that good. So I don't understand. I mean, they taking a gamble on it. They must think Phoenix is going to be worse in the future.
Well, that's
Maybe.
what I think.
You never know.
That's what I think. I think they're gambling that Phoenix is going to be a train wreck in a few years. So
that's basically what it was. And to get that swap, they needed to trade the second round picks too, I guess, for the other team to agree on it. So that's basically what I got on it. They just guessing that Phoenix is going to be worse by 2030, I guess. They're taking a gamble.
Well, we said, Phoenix probably going to be, in title contention for 2 or 3 years, and after that, they could be a total mess because they have no draft capital. So, yeah.
And by the way, about Memphis, you gave them a B. If you gave them a B and you sticking with a B, that was the first grade. I gotta bump it down to a B minus. I can't stand them giving Desmond Bain that money, man. Desmond Bain
that was a lot.
Not deserve that money. There's no way. This guy never made All-Star. He probably never will make All-Star. He's not that guy. Like, he's not that good. He averaged 20 points. That's cool. A lot of guys can average 20 points in the second go-to guy on the team. 20 points in the NBA today is nothing. I think the stat is about 40 people averaged 20 points last year. I don't know. I'm just exaggerating probably, but a lot of people average 20 points now. He's not that good. They're getting whatever he got, 250, whatever he got was insane. So if B was the first grade, me personally, I'd do a B minus because that Desmond Bain contract was the worst. You're gonna be stuck for years giving him that money. Nobody gonna want that. That's the new worst contract in the league.
It was somewhere between 45. It was around 45.
40. It's the exact number is 41,180,000 per year. It was the same contract that Halliburton signed. Like it was the same extension from the PDO. So he's making this offseason. There's only I don't know about the most. He's as of right now, he's basically making Kyrie Irving money. He's making a few $100,000 less than Kyrie Irving is, and he's making the same as Tyrese Halliburton for the same amount of 5 years.
Yeah, I didn't like that contract either. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't move them up. If anything, I would probably move them down, but I'm happy with the B unless a lot of votes to move them down. All right, we'll move on. All right, Cam, you're up. you got the Miami Heat, and they find themselves. Dame wants to come there, but they don't know how they can do it. They just don't seem to have the pieces. Though I hear they're shutting down Jaime Jaquez and the other young forward. They have Jovic. I heard they shut them down in Summer League. I don't know. Anyway, go ahead. What's going on with the Heat?
Yeah, Rich. So the Heat's moves in the draft. They picked up Jaquez, who, like you said, is already getting shut down at Summer League. He's been playing really, really well. And again, Jovic, one of their younger guys from last year's draft, he was putting up buckets in Summer League, and he's also getting shut down. But let's move on to the rest of their offseason. We've already talked a little bit about Max Strus and Gabe Vincent moving out. Tough to lose two guys from a team that made it all the way to the NBA Finals, especially guys that were as big a part of the rotation as those two guys were. However, the Heat did bring back Kevin Love on a pretty favorable deal, and also Orlando Robinson, who was also at Summer League, had a really good game the other day. A big interior presence, good rebounder. Outside of that, in the free agent market, so far they've picked up Josh Richardson, kind of a journeyman. Funny enough, he really burst onto the scene playing for the Heat prior to Jimmy Butler coming to Miami. And
prior
was actually
to the Sixers. He played the best basketball of his life with the Heat. Then he went to the Sixers and did
next to nothing.
That's most players. That's most players that go to the Sixers. They come to us, and they start to fail. That's most players. Started with Chris Webber, and then just the trend starting to follow.
And it's happened with every Tennessee alum that the Sixers have touched, including Tobias Harris. So I mean, Josh
and Jared Springer.
Yeah, Jaden Springer. Yeah. So, I mean, I like the Josh Richardson pickup a lot, not just because I went to UT, but because, again, he did play his best basketball of his career for the Heat with Spoelstra. Fun guard. He can play up to small forward, pretty good defender. He can pass the ball, run some pick and roll, play a little backup point guard as need be. Kind of like really not all that different from a Gabe Vincent, a little bit taller. They also brought in Jamari Bouye, fan of the buddy of the show, on a two-way deal. Drew Smith and Drew Peterson. More Drews. We need more Drews in the league.
Three people they signed have been on the show. Boye, Drew Peterson, and Orlando Robinson. Though wasn't officially a podcast at the time, but we did interview him, and that's on YouTube.
Yeah, go check out those interviews. They're all cool guys. So, I mean, the other big move that they made was actually salary dumping Victor Oladipo, trying to make some room in the salary cap, in their cap sheet for, obviously, Dame Lillard. Even though they're still pretty much, big whale hunting for Lillard, I like their offseason so far. It's kind of a pass off season where they don't end up overpaying for guys that they made look better than they really are. To me, Strus isn't worth the money he's making. Vincent's probably not worth the money that he's going to be making for the Lakers. $10 million a year is a lot for him. Even though I do think it's probably the most favorable of the deals that the guys that have left their team. Sometimes the best move is just rely on your front office to go find some guys that can fill the roles, and let the more expensive guys who've already proved it walk. It's tough, but I think it's probably the right move for them. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm still thinking around a B- for them.
I think it has to go.
I would drop them.
Yeah, I mean, they lost two key players, and they replaced with Josh Richardson, who hasn't played well for about 3 or 4 years. So even if you think Richardson is going to, balance out with Max Strus, I mean, what are their point
I would
guards?
say he would probably balance out with Gabe Vincent. Yeah, the tougher thing is what are they going to do with that Strus spot? But again, too, like their offseason is not really complete until they have reached their trade.
Whatever happens with Dame, potentially.
I mean, it looks like right now, I haven't really seen a lot of teams buzzing outside of the Heat. And it's Pat Riley. If there's a player that he wants on the market, he's going to figure out how to make it happen.
Right, but we can't grade them on what might happen.
Yeah. But they can't just sign Strus and then bring in a contract the size of a player like Dame Lillard.
No, I agree, but did they know this ahead of time? I don't know. It just, for me, they've definitely lost more than they brought in, unless that trade goes through. But right now, I can't give them any higher than a C+.
I don't know. I mean, it's tough. Like, I think turning around just because they made the finals. I mean, this team sucked most of the year. Like, I think it would have been a mistake to overpay Max Strus. Could they have brought him back on a more team favorable deal like the Lakers did with Austin Reeves? Maybe. But if he's getting that kind of an offer from Cleveland, I don't know.
I think the thing with this team is, like, I do agree with Cam that, like, I'm glad they didn't overpay these guys because they'd be stuck with this roster who hasn't been able to get over that hump as they just kept getting older. But, like, I look at some of the other guys who signed, like, some of these smaller deals, and it's like they couldn't have gotten some of these higher upside guys. Like, the best you could bring in to replace a Max Strus and a Gabe Vincent was a Josh Richardson. Like, I'm just looking at some of the other guys who signed, like, these smaller deals around. I'm like, I would have liked to maybe see them try to go get one of those guys and maybe turn themselves into that rehabilitation program where they get these guys for 1-year deals. They come in, revitalize their career, and then, kind of like what the Warriors have done with guys. I just don't. I mean, they've lost big pieces to 2 championship runs. I mean, even though they didn't win, and they brought in a guy that's been pretty bad for the last couple of years. And, like, I love Jaime Jaquez, but, like, I don't know if he's going to be, like, I just don't know. I think they have to be in. I was thinking honestly more like C, but, like, I could see C+. And then obviously if they bring in Dame, that changes everything.
Any other thoughts on the Heat? All right. So Drew and I are voting for C+. Cam says B-. Anybody else have an opinion? I just think B is being very generous for a team that looks like to be going in the wrong direction unless they can pull that trade off. By the way, they did add Thomas Bryant. I forgot to add that to their free agent list. I don't think that's a needle mover one way or the other. I mean, I think what's killing him is Lowry's contract. And, was that a contract that he signed with Toronto, or is that a contract he signed with the Heat?
It was a sign and trade.
All right. So they chose to take on that contract. We all, again, you can't sign guys in their mid to late 30s to that kind of money. It's just going to backfire more than not. And whose fault's that but theirs? So, all right. We got two votes for the C. So we're gonna go down to C+. Unless I hear otherwise. So we move on to Milwaukee. We're finally to the M's. Doc wanted to talk about the M's when we were in the B's. We're finally in the M's, Doc. So that's Jake. You got the Bucks. I don't know if I guess they've been pretty busy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I kept my grade with them. I think if I were to move it, I would move them up. So I had them as a B+ with their draft grade. I kept their offseason grade the same. They get Andre Jackson, trading a second-round pick that is 7 years in the future, along with some cash to be able to get the pick. And then they drafted Chris Livingston at 58, who they just signed to a 4-year contract. I believe is like the richest ever for a last like the last pick in the draft. So thought it was a solid draft class with what they had to get a guy like Andre Jackson, who, although he can't shoot right now, can do a lot of other things, can affect winning and potentially help him out right away. It was big. They took a flyer on Malik Beasley, a flyer on Robin Lopez, Drew Timmy, Jay-Z and Gorman, Amari Moore as undrafted free agents, guys that I all like. I know Drew loves Timmy, and he's probably going to more for signing them. But I like what they did with free agents. They gave AJ Green like a future deal type thing, signed Jay Crowder, re-signed Brook Lopez, and I believe they got Chris Middleton back at a better price by him opting out and then or whatnot, and then declining his option of some sort, and then like signing a deal with the team. So I like what they did, and when you look what you like, they were able to keep some of their veterans who were on the championship team. Bring in a Robin Lopez and Malik Beasley solely as depth plays here. Get Andre Jackson. You look at Boston's getting weaker. Miami's getting weaker now. You know, there's an asterisk next to what happens with Dame Lillard. But as it stands right now, I think the Bucks are the best team in the East. And because of that, even though they got bounced early with the Giannis injury in the playoffs, for them to still be in the position that they're in, I gave them a B+. And I think if I were to move it, I'd move them up to the A range.
Yeah, I think that's a little generous. I'm still wondering what they're going to do behind Drew Holiday, because as Doc said, he's slipping. And is Andre Jackson ready to be the backup point guard for a championship caliber team? I mean, that's looking like where he slots in on the depth chart. If you notice, though, they signed a lot of guys that were either full-time or part-time point guards, you know, in their previous stop. Gortman was a point guard. Amari Moore played a lot of point guard at San Jose State. And AJ Green just got off the two-way to a standard NBA contract. He's kind of been a combo guard, but more of a scorer. And Lindell Wigington has always been kind of a combo guard. So they need somebody to step up there. Logical choice is Andre Jackson. So I think they did pretty good, but I don't know if I would raise their grade.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I like B+.
You're all right with Drew with that?
Yeah, I like B+.
What are you thinking, Doc?
Yeah, I'll be a hypocrite, right? If I said the Lakers did everything they needed to do, like on their list, they checked everything. Milwaukee did too. They got Brook Lopez back and got Chris Middleton back. Had a good deal without having to pay him the max money. But my problem with Milwaukee Bucks is that, yes, they did lose in the first round, and a team definitely is on the older side than other teams in the East. Like, they're not. But those guys is not good. You know, Chris Middleton took a huge step back after that injury. Even in the playoffs, he was not the same. It was bad. Drew Holiday looked like got exposed. Like, even when Giannis went down, everybody still thought they would still come out that first round matchup, and they didn't, because they won that game too convincingly. After that, they got beat down, and Giannis did come back. So they lost in the first round to Miami Heat. I don't know. Their team used to have a lot of shooters too. And they don't really got like knockdown shooters. Somebody who would like always catch. Oh, he's guaranteed. When you shoot the ball, you think you're gonna make it. Like, their team is not that good to me. I don't see it. And Brook Lopez is good. Brook Lopez for their team is good. Brook Lopez he like 40. Brook Lopez has been in NBA for so long. I don't know how old he is, but their team, he's good. I give you that. But I don't know. They team is just not all that to me. I just don't see it. Like, they really are Giannis or Da. Like, that's why I look at it. And Giannis got to make his free throws still. He missed too many free throws in the playoffs last season. That was atrocious. Like, my best player could not miss free throws in the clutch. Like, I don't know. Their team is just not that good to me. I'm not scared of them if I'm anybody, honestly, because you just know for years all you got to do is build a wall around Giannis and stop him. They really don't got no shooters like that. And Chris Middleton, to me, I don't think Chris Middleton can average 25. Or 23. I think he's now 8 Tobias Harris type scoring, 16 to maybe 19, and that's his max, honestly. I don't see Chris Middleton having high scoring point game unless he shoot inefficient games, shooting like 38%. We have to take like 20 shots.
I agree. It's kind of like now or never for this team because Middleton's on the downside, Holiday's on the downside, Lopez is on the downside. Grayson Allen has never quite lived up to expectations as a shooter. Crowder's on the downside. But when you look at what they've added, they brought everybody back they needed to. Now, you could argue, well, maybe they shouldn't have signed Middleton. Maybe they should have replaced him with somebody else. There wasn't a lot of free agents, not a lot of great free agents out there. So
no, yeah, that's why I agree. I agree with the like the offseason grade. I'm just saying when I look at their team, I just don't see their team being as good as we just saying they'd be good because of Giannis. I think that's what the biggest deal is that they got Giannis, so they got to be the best team. That's how I look. The respect for Giannis is so high that we were going to put the team there, but I don't sound like the others.
No, I
think it's a big drop.
I really think that one or two of their young guys has to emerge as valuable reserves that can make impact, like Jackson, like Timmy, like Gortman, or Livingston, or somebody. I think somebody's going to have to surprise us, and for this team to really, because they need juice. They're kind of running on fumes at this point.
I will say Beauchamp has looked pretty good in summer league.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed.
Their whole team is actually pretty good in summer league.
Yeah, Beauchamp is shooting well, something he never could do.
If he can emerge, and I think if you had to ask any guy in this draft, particularly at the hard position of playing point guard, to come in and be an impact as just a playmaker, like to do all the small things, if you had to ask anybody to do it, Andre Jackson's the guy you want in that situation to have to come in and impact right away. He won't score great, but like this last game, I mean, we saw like those blocks, those plays when he hustles on defense. He had 11 rebounds in his last game. I mean, he's the type of guy that he might score 4 points, but we all know this. But I think if you had to ask anybody to take on that mantle and rise to that challenge, that's probably the guy you want doing it.
Right. And is anybody going to be shocked if Drew Timmy goes out there and averages 10, 11, 12, and 5 or 6 rebounds a game for them in spot?
Yes. I'm surprised that Drew Timmy even makes a team, but that is not my guy.
I mean, right now, all he has is the training camp invite, so he's not on a 2-way yet. But I also like Gortman. Like I said, beside Travion Smith, he was the second highest player on our draft board when undrafted. So I think Gortman's a player too. So, all right,
I would say this about the Bucks though. I think it's a free agent that all those teams could, Boston, Philly, Miami, if they could get one of those guys and get Kelly Oubre to sign for the low, I think that he'd be like a great piece to all those teams. I think Kelly Oubre is a guy, a wing, like a legit wing who can shoot the ball, athletic, run the court, and play defense. I think that can help out all those East Conference teams. So whoever get him, I definitely would change my thought process on what the East will look.
Yeah, good point. Good point. He's definitely one of the better guys left on the market. All right, so we're going to move on to the Timberwolves, who we weren't too high on. Drew, and I'll let you talk. What do you think about what they've done since we've last talked about them?
Yeah, so I mean, I gave them a C- coming out of the draft. I'm keeping them at a C- because I'm viewing them I'm viewing them through the lens of a team that is trying to be competitive. I mean, the money that they're paying, the moves that they made, this is clearly not a team trying to rebuild. They're trying to be in contention come playoff time. And I don't think any of their moves, whether you look at the draft or free agency, helps them do that. I know Shea Milton's been a guy on the show, through the last year or so. We've liked as a player, and I do like him as a nice depth piece. I mean, you get a 6'5" wing that can do a little bit of secondary playmaking, can hit a spot three, does a lot of things. Does a lot of things well, and for $5 million a year, I think it's a really solid signing. You have an aging Conley and a Jordan McLaughlin at that guard position, so he kind of helps stabilize that. I think their other big signing was Troy Brown. Again, another guy who's going to play some rotation minutes, can hit a three. But, again, outside of adding some depth at the small forward position, I don't expect him to absorb more minutes than a Kyle Anderson or a Jaden McDaniels or a Jalen Noel. I mean, hell, if Leonard Miller, ends up in this rotation, I don't know if he's going to see more minutes than him. at times. So again, doesn't really move the needle. And then Naz Reid, I like as a player. I would have loved for like my Warriors or a team that needs a big to sign him. If he ended up on the Warriors or ended up on the Lakers, he would, I think, have a great time there. But you just paid a third center when your best lineup on paper already features two centers, at least in terms of raw talent. So like, sure, he's some insurance, but how much of an impact is he really going to make come, playoff time when you're probably going to have to ride Cat and Gobert? So look, I kept them at a C-. I think, obviously you extend Ant, it's the obvious move, but you brought in two kind of wing-ish players that are solid, but this is a team that needs more than solid. We saw what they were last year, which wasn't a great squad. They didn't bring in any difference makers in the draft. They didn't bring in any difference makers in free agency. At the end of the day, you're relying heavily on a 35-year-old point guard, an overpaid center in Gobert who is highly limited, and a center in Cat who hasn't been able to really, take that next step into stardom. So I love Ant Edwards. I think he's a kid that's made the right stuff. I like his confidence. I think he's gotten better each year, but at the end of the day, this team caps out as probably a 7th or 8th seed that will probably lose in the first round. And they didn't bring in really any reinforcements that are going to help them, when it matters about winning time. Milton's a good pickup, but at the end of the day, Milton doesn't move you over a team like the Lakers, a team like the Nuggets. So I kept them at a C-.
Yeah. I agree. Any other thoughts on the T-Wolves?
No, I just hate. I don't like T-Wolves at all. I don't like their team. I don't like. They did the worst. What's his name? Alex Rodriguez got to just sell the team, I guess. Well, he owns the team. I don't know what he does, but baseball does not work, and he can't. He's not on the Yankees. He can't just buy the players he wants. He tried to do that with Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert. I don't know if his AI told him Rudy Gobert was a good player, okay, but no, in real life, Rudy Gobert is not that superstar you pay that much money. He's not. Their team is all messed up. They was on a great path when they had Patrick Beverly and boys, and you just went 360 backwards. I don't like the Grizzlies. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't like the Minnesota Timberwolves at all.
Yeah.
I just don't like them.
I think we're all in agreement there. All right. So moving on, Drew also had the Pelicans. One thing that I didn't understand was how the hell the Pelicans allowed Herbert Jones to be on the free agent market for a minute. And I don't know why other teams didn't make him like a real legitimate offer. First of all, if I'm New Orleans, I don't let it get that far, but they did, and they signed him right away. But my question is, why didn't somebody else move in to sign him? I mean, Herb Jones to me is like a great player.
He is. So I guess I'll start there. I gave them a B for their draft grade. They had a really simple draft. I give them a B here. I was actually potentially looking at a B+ because I think they just stole Herb Jones. I'm a big fan of his. I've been a big fan of his since his days at Alabama. Like starting off at him, he's making under $14 million a year, and we're talking about a guy that will defend. He scores efficiently. He can hit his spot three. He can take on some secondary playmaking. He's literally everything you want in a 6'7" NBA wing. No drama. He has a veteran mindset because he's an experienced college guy, so he does everything well. I actually like them giving EJ Liddell some guaranteed money. I mean, he's not making much at all. It's barely over $2 million. I know he tore his ACL, but I don't know if you guys. I watched him in summer league the other day. He's already showing signs of that strong, fundamental, like just solid player he was. We don't know what's going to happen with Zion. Obviously, that's its own saga. So, getting another kind of not super high upside, but kind of a positive unknown at that power forward kind of position, I think was a good, smart move. Locking him up. I think Cody Zeller for the veteran minimum is just solid front court depth. Jackson Hayes is gone. He's just another big body. He has playoff experience. He'll rebound. He'll fight for boards. He'll set screens. I mean, reality is Valanciunas and Larry Nance are going to be the bigs you rely on in theory, Zion. So I gave them a B. I think they brought in a guy in Jordan Hawkins who didn't play super well in his first summer league game, but has, a bankable skill set and his shooting ability with upside for more. Landers Nolly played really well in his summer league debut. I think, again, that's another guy that could maybe – he's a better shooter than Herb Jones was, not as good as a defender, but could follow along that footstep of maybe a veteran college guy who's 6'7", 6'11" wingspan, 3-and-D upside. Again, I like the Zeller move. I think Herb Jones was another guy, a la Austin Reeves. Like, how did nobody offer these guys more money? Like, these are the type of guys who have proven that they're veteran players from college. They know how to play this game, and they do a lot of things really well. And you're getting them for less money than a lot of guys who I'm shocked got the money that they got. Like, I love the Herb Jones signing, but I still keep them at a B. I think the thing that is going to be big for these guys is if they do decide to move off Zion. I know there's been some light rumblings. Like, if they move off Zion, that could either catapult them way higher, depending on what their turn is, or if they get swindled, it could drop them lower. But I think this is one of those teams that had a very simple, solid free agency B.
Yeah. Any other comments on the Pels?
Yeah, I think a B is solid. The Herb Jones contract is ridiculous. I mean, just such a great value for a guy that can be your number one defender. And now he can really contribute offensively. His shot's getting better. He's more confident with the ball in his hands. I got to just keep harping on this. This is the team that should trade for Dame Lillard. Mm-hmm. They can flip Zion plus picks, instantly bring in a point guard. I just think and they can actually take on the defensive liability because they have guys like Herb Jones. I just think this team is one move away from being genuine contenders. And last year with Zion, they were a contender.
I would like that move a lot. If you let CJ go play his natural position at the 2 guard, you have Dyson Daniels, who's also looked really good in Summer League as that kind of de facto backup point. And then you let Dame kind of do his thing, and he would have scoring, defense. Like Trey Murphy's another guy we're not even talking about, who's a long, again, smart player. I'm with you, Cam. If they landed Dame, this team would be terrifying. They'd go at least 2 deep at every position, if not 3. They wouldn't be compromising the youth movement entirely. And you would reunite, and then you would give Dame some legit firepower, and CJ go plays his natural 2 guard position. He's slotted at their 1 on their depth chart, which isn't what he normally should be doing.
Yeah, I just think this is a team that they need to go into win now mode sooner rather than later. So they've got some young guys on rookie scale deals that they're going to have to start letting walk here soon, the next year or 2. They could really capitalize on just the depth that they have and just the positions. I mean, they like Drew said, they go 3 deep at just about every position. I just think this team's ready to take the next step.
Agreed. By the way, EJ Liddell was last year's version of this year's Trace Jackson Davis. As we went through the draft games, we were like, why didn't anybody take EJ Liddell before this? Why didn't anybody? And so now, after not playing a lick because of the injury, they rewarded him with a standard contract, which was nice to see. So good for EJ Liddell. I think he's a pretty underrated player. Next up is Jackson with the Knicks, who had no draft picks. So
for their draft grade, we obviously gave them an F with no picks, and their only pickup from the draft was Jacob Toppin. And in the offseason, they really haven't done that much either. They sent Obi Toppin, coincidentally, to the Pacers for 2 second-rounders, and then they signed Dante DiVincenzo to a 4-year, $50 million deal.
That's right.
Yeah. So overall, I mean, it really just depends on how high you are in DiVincenzo and what he can bring to the Knicks. I mean, he'll bring shooting and defense. But I mean, the Obi Toppin trade kind of disappointing, but because he was a top 10 pick a few years ago. But I mean, they weren't going to play him much anyway with Julius Randle. So I guess they recouped some value getting 2 second-rounders. And then DiVincenzo obviously just reunites him with Brunson and Hart from the old Villanova squad. So we had him at an F in the draft. I just moved him up to a D. They actually added someone that will be in the rotation next season. But I mean, I couldn't move him up that much higher just because he didn't do much. But yeah, I feel like it really depends on how high you are in DiVincenzo and how much of an impact he'll bring. I think he's a good player and he'll bring impact in his shooting and defense. But I think just moving him up slightly because they did nothing in the draft and just adding one player D. That's why I gave him.
Yeah, I hear you there. The other thing is, it's the move. The Knicks already had a lot of guard wing types, and they had another one, and they didn't have many front court pieces beside Randall and Mitchell and Hartenstein. And they lose, they lose one of those guys. So it kind of seems like a weird move. But I think DiVincenzo is probably a more valuable player than Toppin. But the question is, somebody's going to have to lose some playing time here, and they might be short when it comes to sitting Randall. Who's going to come in? Who's going to come in off the bench for Randall? I mean, I think right now it's Isaiah Roby, who's on a non-guaranteed contract, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. But D, I'm fine with a D. Anyone else? All right. So Jackson has to leave us. So we'll say goodnight, Jackson. Thanks for joining us again. And we're going to move on to the Thunder. All right. Yeah. And Drew's got the Thunder, who's been quite busy. Go ahead, Drew.
Yeah. So I gave the Thunder a C coming out of the draft. And I'm going to keep them at a C, which I think is they've had an average off season. And this is I feel kind of weird giving them this grade because I think we all agree that this is a team that has really high ceiling. We're all watching Chet play well in summer league. But this is a team, and this team is entirely banking on internal growth to continue their ascension. They are now in that kind of second stage of the rebuild where they're not just drafting guys. They're not trying to make big swings. They are looking at this core going as Jalen Williams, Josh Giddey, Shea, the other Jalen Williams, Lou Dort continue to get better. They're hoping that Chet's going to come in right away, hit the ground running, make an impact. They're hoping that Cassian Wallace is going to come in and make an impact. They didn't really make any major moves, in my opinion, to say, wow, what a great free agency / draft period. I really do like them getting Ty Washington, Usman, and that second round pick for, basically nothing. It just keep that young core, keep adding talent there. It costs them nothing. If Ty turns into a first round kind of point guard, you've got a great backup to Caston / Shea right there. I pronounce this guy's name wrong, but is it Vasily Michik? Vasily Michik?
I think
Michik. I think that's actually kind of an underrated move. That's the one thing where I was thinking I might actually want to bump him up to a C+. This is an accomplished EuroLeague guy. In 31 EuroLeague games last year, he slashed 16 points, 5.5 assists, and he slashed 44, 36, and 87 from the field. I think this is a great kind of veteran move to back up Shea, to back up Giddey, to give Caston enough. If Caston's not ready to take on a big load, you have a guy that can come in and is an accomplished international basketball player. He's a basketball veteran. So I was thinking maybe C+ because I really think this is a kind of a crafty signing for a young team to bring another guy in who's going to take some pressure off these young guys having to be ready to perform right away. But at the end of the day, this team goes as far as these returners. If these returners continue to ascend, this team will continue to get better. If they hit a wall, they won't. They didn't bring in or do anything super splashy in free agency. So I give them a C, but I could maybe be persuaded to a C+ for getting Ty Washington and Usman for almost nothing and for signing kind of this veteran international player. But at the end of the day, look, if Chet comes in and wins Rookie of the Year, Shea maintains his first team All-NBA status, and let's say Giddey and Jalen Williams maybe get some dark horse all-star votes in there, this team's going to be really good. If they don't do that, this team will continue to be a young team that's very promising, but, another year away. So
I'd actually like to see the grade be even a little higher than that, like maybe B-, just because, you get Ty Washington, you get Garuba, you get some draft capital with the whole Patty Mills shenanigans moving him around. You add, EuroLeague MVP from a couple years ago. I don't know. I think, they haven't really lost anything. And in fact, their roster right now is they're going to have to cut some people. So it's probably going to be like Oladipo and Bertans are going to have to go. But I think they're all on expiring contracts. So they only take the hit for that this year. So I don't know. I think they've done a good job. You're right. I mean, they haven't done anything. They should improve just from Chet and everybody being another year older. But yeah, I think they've done things right. I think I'd give them I'd give them like a B minus.
I'm super open to moving. Like I said, I was already on that cusp of C plus. I just wasn't super familiar with Michig's game, so I didn't want to like overreact to just the raw stat. I didn't go back and study it. I didn't want to overreact to a raw stat line. But like they basically stole 2 first-round picks for nothing, like previous first rounders. So I'm super open to moving them up. I just think that this was like I said, I felt kind of
and just from moving Patty Mills around, they got a couple more picks.
Yeah,
you know,
like I felt kind of guilty because I'm like, this is a team that I think we're all pretty high. Like I think this team makes the playoffs. Like I think this is the playoff, and not a high playoff team, but like right now, I think this team is better than Minnesota, and it's not like I think this team is definitely better than.
But a year or two from now, 2 years from now, or 3 years,
it might be the best team in the West.
Right? Yeah. Right.
So I felt like if I was saying in terms of like hype wise, I'm like these dudes are going to be really good. I think like just in terms of what they're getting from Chet coming back, I'd give them a damn near a B plus, but we don't count him. So yeah, I'm good with a B minus. Honestly, I'm cool with that.
All right. Anybody else?
I agree. And not only I like the Case and Wallace pick, I like all these trades they made, but they're in a great spot right now. They're paying one guy basically in Shea and Dort too, correct? Dort's like on an actual extension now.
Yeah, but even his
that was last year.
Bad.
I think. Yeah, I think he got it that last
his
year.
money's not like extreme. It's
exactly
3-and-D wing money.
Yeah, so they're in a great spot right now. They have a bunch of assets. They can afford to take on bad contracts like this and just be the benefactor, taking on an extra second rounder or two for a guy that's not going to actively hurt them and just be on the books for a year that they can get rid of. Like they're in a perfect spot. They still have low expectations, but they still will be able to compete because they have enough talent on the team. Like they're in the absolutely perfect spot right now. They can compete right now with what they have, and they still have whatever they want, money, a ton of assets for the future to get somebody and make a run at someone that they want. They're in the perfect spot to get an Oladipo to trade up and get their guy that they wanted to take on Bertan's contract. That's the beauty of where they're at. They can make moves like that. The cap space, the guys like Bertan's Mills that aren't going to help them. That's fine. Like they can when they get off the books, they get off the books. They won't hurt them, and they can still get more assets for now. They're in a perfect spot, and I agree. I agree with you, Rich. I think they're in the B range for me now.
Okay.
This is what the Brooklyn Nets need to be watching. Just like I know we talked about it earlier, they need to look at this and go, okay, Bridges is hopefully going to be our Shea, like a guy who I think is going to be a lot better than he was allowed to be because he was playing behind so much talent at the Suns. This is the model that teams need to start following. I think this is the best example of a rebuild that I can remember. Not the process, not Brooklyn trying to blow it up and then just get big stars. Like this is a rebuild done right. They have literally everything you want. They have every NBA prototype player, 3-and-D, stretch big, scoring guard. Like they have it on their roster, and they're just like, we're gonna let them do it at their own pace. Like this is a rebuild done damn near perfect. Now, obviously, they got to win when the time comes. But as it stands, I got no complaints with how this team has operated the last 2 or 3 years. I think it's been awesome.
All right. We're going to move on to one of Jake's teams, the Orlando Magic. By the way, we settled on a B minus, I guess. And we'll move on to the Magic. What do you got for the Magic? They haven't really done much of anything since we last talked.
Yeah, so I gave them a C minus for their draft class, and I it's either staying there or it's going down. I'll listen to what everybody else has to say, but they still didn't do anything that moves the needle for me. They signed Joe Ingles, which is fine, but coming off the knee injury, I don't think he's been. And I like Joe Ingles, I really do, and they need a vet, which is I guess good, but it doesn't move the needle in a crazy fashion for me that wants to make me swing it up and down. And that's like the one guy you've brought in. I don't know if he's been the same since his knee injury, and then to sign Mo Wagner to a 2-year deal, which I believe is 2 years, 16, to give him $8 million a year. Like I don't know if his play is warranted that to be the backup or the third stringer.
Another guy who's making more money than Russell Westbrook.
Yeah. So to be quite honest with you, like I don't hate the Anthony Black pick. Like I said last episode, we were talking about the draft. I had him anywhere between 6 to 10, anywhere in that range. I know like the Wizards seem to be like the defensive spot at 8. anywhere in that range is kind of where I am. But to be like, they haven't done anything this offseason that I have liked. Because I can't even say that I loved, because I haven't even really liked anything. To be quite honest with you, they're still not going to be very good next year. Still, I mean, probably the bottom of the barrel rebuilding in the East. Not going to be a playing team. Not going to be a playoff team. Even with like how great Banchero is, like I don't like the roster they have right now, and I really don't like anything that they did. So I had a C- for their draft grade, and I know we wanted to move it down. So I'm willing to hear what you guys got to think. Well, got to say, because I would be all for moving them down if that.
I mean, from a pure talent standpoint, they did pretty well in the draft, but I just hated, as I said last week, I hated the Howard pick, especially for a team that obviously needs a real center. Lively would have been the pick for me, and then I would have been giving this team an A. Anthony Black was kind of a little bit confusing in and of itself, because they already just Suggs last year, and on top of Fultz already on the team, Cole Anthony can play point guard. So, I mean, where does Anthony Black fit in there? You can't really play him the wing because he can't shoot. So, and you already have Wagner there, so, and Banchero. So it's just, like I said, I would love this draft and this team if they had taken Lively. They didn't, so I'm happy keeping them at a C-. Anybody else? All right, we'll move on.
I would have went D+, but I'm going to go with a C- just for the sake of it.
Okay.
Keeping it simple.
Yeah, it's kind of like, but if they want to ride with Wendell Carter, good on you. We'll see how you do. All right, on to the Sixers. Sixers obviously had no picks. They signed a bunch of undrafted free agents, which we talked about last week. And then in the beginning of free agency, they saw 3 serviceable backups leave: Shake Milton, George Niang, and Paul Reed. Well, Paul Reed, I think he still has a chance to come back, but it's very unlikely because Utah put in some stuff in that contract that's going to make it really expensive for them to keep Paul Reed. So I think he's going to the Jazz. So I think you can pretty much mark that down. At the same time, they brought in Pat Beverly for very little, and Mo Bamba, of course, who was once a top 5 pick, to replenish the bench. And then, I think basically they really what the offseason is going to come down to is what's going to happen with Harden. Some people say that the Sixers want to keep him. He reportedly wants to go to the Clippers. If he stays, with what they've done so far, this team very much looks like the team that floundered in the conference semifinals once again. If he goes, they better come away with a point guard that can shoot, and they better come away with a wing or a forward who can shoot. Because, you look at the depth chart right now, I mean, the only power forward they have on the team is PJ Tucker, and he proved to be a liability in the playoffs. So right now he's their starter. So they really need to me, Tucker should be a guy coming off the bench, energy guy, giving you like maybe 15 minutes a night. So I'm not crazy about what the Sixers have done, and so I'm thinking D+ for their overall grade.
Yeah, I agree.
I got them at like a F-. So if that's possible, it's no way. First of all, all they moves contradict themselves. You signed Patrick Beverly for what? You signed him when you already had Jaden Springer, who we thought was going to come off the bench now at that backup. But now you got Patrick Beverly there. So now it's like, where's Jaden Springer? Is going to have another year not playing basketball for us? Because you're going to have D'Anthony Melton and and Patrick Beverly on your bench. So that's your guard position right there. The harder fiasco stuff is just annoying by now. You going to trade him or not? And if he stays, we already know if he stays, he's going to come to training camp and the season out of shape because he don't really want to be there. So that's a waste. So we got to just waste a whole year. And now Maury is this guru on. Well, I always say this: Maury used to be a guru, but when everybody comes to us, they turn into statues, stones. They don't. When everybody come to us, they're not great no more. Maury did one good thing for Philly when he got rid of Al Horford contract. Right, that was good. Ever since then, I don't really know what he has been doing. I don't know. That James Harden trade, I look at it as even. I don't think nobody really won that trade. I think we did give up a lot when we gave up Steph Curry and Drummond at that time. But when you look at our team now, but how we still got Tobias Harris on our team? He's on his last year. This would be the easiest year he should be traded. And he's still there. Harden, if Harden only wants to go to one team, it's not in his ball court. You could trade him anywhere.
Right.
He still has to play. He has 1 year left in his contract. He has to play no matter where he go. Let that team have the headache, like what the Brooklyn Nets did with Kyrie. They sent it to the Dallas Mavericks. They had a headache and not know when he's going to sign. Oh wow, that has nothing to do with our team. Let him go and let PJ Tucker go with him. Our team is the Sixers. Let me say our team. The Sixers is just done. I'm tired of them. They had the worst all season I've seen ever. They didn't even trade into the draft. I don't know why. They did nothing this all season. And I don't understand why you signed Mo Bamba when we had just sign Paul Reese, B-Ball Paul. The fans love him. You got to sign back your guy. You can't go out and sign someone else who's not even – Mo Bamba's cool.
Well, now they can't. Now they did extend the qualifying offer to Reed. But the Utah gave him a contract that basically says if he makes the playoffs, okay, if they get to the conference semifinals next year, which Utah won't. They did this. Danny Ainge did this so the Sixers couldn't sign him. That he gets like an extra bonus. So if he actually plays for Utah, he won't see that bonus. But if he plays for the Sixers, he will get it. And so not only do the Sixers have to pay that bonus, but it also puts them puts them in a cap situation where they'd have to pay like a $14 million tax penalty just to sign Paul Reed.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand that aspect, but they signed Mo Bamba before Utah made that offer. So in my head, I'm thinking they was never going to sign
you could still use Paul Reed. You could actually still use Paul Reed at forward too. So you could play them both at the same time coming off the bench.
No way.
Yeah,
you cannot. Paul Reed's a center. Come on, he's not no. Paul Reed cannot do anything but run the basketball court, but that he can't shoot. He catches putbacks. He's not like a mid-range.
But he can
guy.
defend. He can defend multiple positions.
But without the offensive side, you can't put him at the floor with Mo Bamba. That's terrible.
You can't put PJ Tucker at the floor either, but they do. So
But PJ, but that's another thing. That's Daryl Morey and James Harden think this guy can still shoot the basketball corner three. That's all he's been doing.
Yeah. All right, boys. Let's keep it moving.
Yeah. I agree. By the way, I mean, I think Quavion Smith would have been a draft pick. I think the reason why they didn't move into the draft, they probably had some kind of agreement worked out with him ahead of time. So it was like getting an early second round pick by signing him as an undrafted free agent. So I moved the Sixers grade down to a D. I have no problem with that. That was from a D plus. So I do like picking up Quavion Smith. And I also like Ricky Council. So, all right. So we move on to the Trailblazers. And of course, obviously Dame is the big thing here.
Suns or Trailblazers? I thought Suns were next. Phoenix Suns.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's not much to say about them. But you are correct. The Suns are next.
So I'm taking this over for Booney, I believe. Because of their draft, they only picked up Toumani Camara. We gave them an F. So going in, I mean, they were going to be capped and strapped on what they could do in the offseason just with their money. So I did move them up to a D. I thought they brought in some decent pieces for, what they could afford. We know this team goes this far. I was kind of torn between a D and D minus. Eric Gordon 3-4 years ago would have been an awesome signing, but you're bringing a guy who's going to be 35. Watanabe is a great shooter, but I mean that's really all he gives you is that ability to shoot. You're not getting much more out of him, and he's always been kind of a limited volume guy. Like he's only ever attempted, I think, 2 or 3 a game. So he's gonna have to be attempting a lot more now. Let's see if that volume and the efficiency stay the same. Eubanks and Chimezie Metu are not really needle movers. I'm very familiar with Damian Lee's game. They re-signed him and Josh Okogie. Again, kind of 2 guards that, okay, their bodies, they've been in the NBA a while, so yeah, they can, dribble a basketball and not be horrible.
And they actually breathe too. I've seen them breathe.
I like the Bates Diop pickup. I do like that. I think that's actually my favorite pickup that they've made. I just think that he has some upside there. It's, he's 6'8", 230. He's an efficient scorer. He rebounds. He plays his role well, and this is something that the Suns are going to need is some other physicality, someone who can kind of defend and play with just a grittiness and a toughness and know their role. So I actually like that pickup. I mean, again, these are all guys who were, minimum contract guys. So, I gave them a D just because they did what they could with what they had. And, they got in guys that can be impactful. But, I mean, at the end of the day, we all know this team goes as far as the big 3 can go. And, the fear is, and I actually got into a really big argument with my brother about this, saying my take was bad, saying that, if any of those guys get injured, they're screwed. And I was like, well, it's true. If any of those guys get injured, they're screwed. And Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal have not been pillars of health. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think they did okay with what they could afford, but I don't really see this team going super far. And if one of these guys, particularly like a Bates Diop, doesn't make a big jump and really kind of wow people, I don't really know. These guys are not going to get a lot of support. So you better hope all 3 of those dudes average 25 plus and stay healthy and each get to like 60, 65 games.
Yep. Josh Okogie's probably going to be starting for them too.
Yes, most likely.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they brought in bodies. That's what they did, and I'm fine with a D. Anyone else? All right. So you also had Portland, Drew, which we like their draft.
Yeah, so with Portland, we gave them an A- for their draft. Really like the Scoot Henderson, Chris Murray, and Ryan Rupert pickups. Overall, I dropped them a little bit. I moved them down to a B+. I think in terms of free agency, I think they kind of got screwed. It starts off with, I think they overpaid Jeremy Grant quite a bit. Granted, at the time, I think they had just talked with Dame, and apparently they were talking about how they wanted to still be competitive, and he was one of the guys Dame wanted. So I think they kind of got a short end of the stick there where they signed him expecting things to stay the status quo, and then they find out Dame wants out. So they're going to be stuck with that contract at least through, I believe, around December before it's even tradable. And then how much value does that have on the open market? I don't know. Matisse Thybulle getting that $11 million a year annually for 3 years, it's fine. I suppose. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I mean, he's a good defender. He's really limited offensively. I mean, somebody's got to take up minutes, especially if Dame's out the door. He did show some life as a three-point shooter while in Portland. He played, I think, 22, 23 games there, and he did hit 39% of his threes on like 4 attempts a game while he was with Portland. So I'm not expecting that to stay the same, but if he can have some life as a shooter, there's a role for him. This all hinges on what happens with Dame. I mean, if Dame gets moved and they pick up a huge haul of picks or young players, this could easily jump back up into the A range. If they trade Dame and, get swindled, this will obviously drop. I don't think Dame's going to end up in Miami, to be honest. I think the only way he ends up in Miami is if a team comes in to help facilitate, because there's no way that Miami has the assets that these other teams can offer. So I think that it'll be very interesting to see what happens here. I can even see this dropping to a B, but, a Jeremy Grant overpay, when you look at the circumstances, it makes sense why they did it at the time. And I think Matisse Thybulle, $11 million. I know Sixers fans probably aren't too in love with this guy, but I'm like, he's making the same amount of money as I think like Joe Ingles, Gabe Vincent, Kobe White. I'm like, okay, that's fine, I guess. So I moved him down a little bit to a B+.
Yeah, I get it. You could look at this as they got screwed by Dame and signed Grant, but you really have to question their communication, because it's not like, did Dame really change his mind after they signed Grant? Was he like, all this time, like, I definitely want to be a Blazer, definitely, and now we signed Jeremy Grant. Oh, I want out. I just don't think it went that way. And the thing of it is the minute you didn't trade Scoot is when you should have made your decision.
Yes.
Okay? Either you trade that pick and you're starting over. Either you take that pick and start over, or you trade that pick, sign Grant, and keep Dame. But the minute they drafted Scoot, that's when they should have said, okay, Dame's leaving. We're not signing Grant. And I just don't know how you do that. How do you make such a huge screw up?
So more than likely, Dame came in that meeting that's been talked about. More than likely, he told them that he wanted out, and they decided as a group that it would be best to sort of keep the trade request under wraps until they could really actually market him under the table. The benefit in doing that is, you got a little bit of leverage as far as, here's the offer. Other team wasn't willing to do it for Dame. Now it becomes public. Oh, okay. All right. I don't know.
But if that's the case, then why did they sign Grant in the first place?
Well, so part of it is, you got to pay somebody, right? The worry is too that, it comes out if you release before you sign Grant that Dame's leaving, he might not want to sign. Right? You got to pay somebody. In the meantime. Yeah. So, and Grant too is one of those guys who's kind of shown that he's willing to be the guy on a bad team. So, pay him, make sure he's happy with the money, with the number, and you got a guy that's going to take up that cap for you while you develop your younger players. I really doubt that with something like that, like they had this big sit down meeting and then 3 days later he changes his mind.
Yeah,
that's not how it went.
No,
right? They probably discussed it. They're like, okay, what teams do you really want to go to? He gave them his teams. They looked at, again, they looked at the courses of action that they could take as far as okay, well, Brooklyn wants you, but they can't trade Bridges and they can't trade Johnson. Okay, that's not going to work. They looked at Miami. They're like, we don't really like Hero that much. We don't love the picks. Well, that's not going to work either. That's when it finally comes out. Dame's like, these are the two teams that I want to go to. Right. So I think it's more from the Dame side. I want to go to these two teams. What you said was going to work better and doing it under the table isn't working. I'm going to make it more public now.
Right. That makes a lot more sense.
I still think Boston and New Orleans are the best. Those are the two best destinations where both sides can come out relatively happy.
I think you can work something out with Philadelphia too,
or Philly. Yeah, I think those are the teams where I'm like, Dame's going to go to contending teams, and the Portland's going to get some combination of picks or either going to get established player in a Jaylen Brown. They'll get picks, or they'll get young guys from the Pelicans / picks also. So
it's like Doc said about Harden. Harden has no say about where he's going to go. So
they paid him $450 million while he was a Trailblazer. Look, they don't owe him a damn thing. If anything, you could Dame underachieve there. That's the reality of it. It's not like he carried them to some title run and now he's aging out. It's like Dame never achieved anything there, and they paid him year after year, and they spent money on that roster. He had some help.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on to Jackson's Kings, who Cam volunteered to take over. So you ready to roll here, Cam?
Yeah. This is Cam. Not Jack. Drafting for the Kings, not the Suns, nor the Sun Kings. So yeah, we didn't love their draft. They came away with Colby Jones at 34 and Jalen Slauson at 54. Neither guy is going to like blow you away. Neither I would say is like some huge steal, but they're both pretty solid prospects. Neither's looked incredible in summer league so far, but they've been solid. But I think the real headline of their offseason so far brought back Harrison Barnes on a relatively favorable deal. It's a little bit of a high number. I probably wouldn't pay Harrison Barnes that much, but I'm sure it's about his going rate around the league as a guy that can serve as a power forward or small forward. Brought back Trey Lyles. He played pretty well for them last year. Alex Len has somehow revived his career and he got the re-sign. But I would say really like the headliner for them since draft day, they brought in Chris Duarte in a trade with Indiana. Really nice pickup. Another guy that they can slot in as a shooting guard or as a wing. Can score the ball, provides a little bit of defense. But for those of you who aren't really up to date with European basketball, really like the Sasha Vezenkov signing. They acquired him as a part of trade with the Cavaliers, I believe it was. His draft rights kind of got passed around the league. He was originally drafted by the Nets, EuroLeague MVP, really successful player in Europe. To give you a little bit of like a player comparison, he's a little bit like a bigger Bogdan Bogdanovic, left-handed, power forward, rebounds very well, plays pretty low to the ground, not going to jump off the screen athletically, but he can really shoot the ball, really knows how to play without the ball in his hands, and puts up some really efficient scoring numbers. And then classically, like all of your European prospects, he's a pretty good passer, definitely a plus assist to turnover type of guy. Really nice addition to their team. They moved off of Rashawn Holmes. I like that space is ultimately what they used to re-sign Barnes, bring in Vezenkov, and they also extended Sabonis to a pretty favorable deal. And locked him down for a nice long time. Overall, Jackson went with a B- here. I could move them up to like a B+. I think Duarte with Vezenkov, and they really stand pat with the guys that they had already in house. As a team that finished with the second seed last year.
Third.
Yeah, third by like 2 games, right? And they were second most of the year. I just think, they added a little bit more. They really added even more offensive firepower to a team that had the best offense in the NBA. That's not easy to do. And they did it while maintaining some flexibility with their cap sheet, which is really impressive. I could go up to a B+, maybe even an A- for them. I think A- would be, if you really loved Colby Jones or Jalen Slauson. I think B+ is probably a little bit closer to what my grade would be. But what do you guys think?
I definitely think they need to move up from the draft grade of C+. I would say B-, B, somewhere in there.
I think B, because again, like I think this is just another example of a team that knows what they have, is banking on some internal growth. That's why they bring back Len, they bring back Barnes, they bring back Lyles. They bring like all the guys they brought in, even like at least with Colby Jones, or like veteran, like these are more experienced type players. This is not a team that was trying to make big changes. They probably see themselves like, okay, we're like the second best team in the West behind the Nuggets as it stands. We were right there most of the year. Look, we ran into an all-time great in Steph Curry. There's a very good chance that like if they meet again, the Kings will beat the Warriors, just with internal growth. So I think B. I think they're banking on the internal growth of Sabonis. They're bringing Duarte. Duarte statistically was really effective with Sabonis. I was looking at some of just like their pick and roll numbers together. They were super effective. I think this is a solid B. You bring in a EuroLeague MVP guy, knows how to play the game. This team's going to still be in the top. This will be a top 3 team in the West once all said and done, as long as they stay healthy, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they're too deep. They're too deep.
They're super deep.
Yeah. And Vezenkov's a winner. He couldn't get it done in Europe, but they got there twice. It's impressive. Also, I mean, Keegan Murray just destroyed Summer League his one game. I mean, talk about a guy that looks like
he played. Yeah, he played in a couple, didn't he?
I mean,
29 and 41.
Yeah, he's ready to take a leap. You always know a guy's ready if he comes out to Summer League, and he's just too good. Just too good.
Right.
There.
Moving on, the Spurs, I think we've learned from watching Summer League, at least so far, that Victor Wembanyama is not going to be an instant star. We'll see him again later on tonight. But definitely has a ways to go. We'll talk about that more next week at our our next episode when we discuss the winners and losers from Summer League. But having a good deal of cap space, San Antonio has become one of those destinations for contract dumps. And post-draft trades so far have yielded Reggie Bullock, Chetty Osman, Lamar Stevens, plus some future draft capital. I still think this team is far too young, even with veterans like this, and too raw, especially without a star point guard. For to be anything but one of the still going to be bringing up the rear in the West. But I think if they keep a couple of these veterans, like Bullock, and I always liked Lamar Stevens back from his Penn State days. So I think these are nice guys. If you can get them for affordable rate, that will help them be more competitive on a nightly basis. But the point guard position is one of the reasons why I'm not giving them a plus. I didn't give them an A plus in the draft grade. I gave them an A, and I'm actually going to lower it a little bit here because I still think somewhere along the line they could have come up with another point guard. So I mean, even if Blake Wesley, if you look at that depth chart, even you got Devontae Graham, who got in some kind of off-season trouble. Even at Kansas, he was kind of like a score-first point guard. Blake Wesley's never played point guard, and they're trying to do that. So you got Trey Jones. That's your only one true point guard on the roster. So I can't believe in all these, machinations that they've made that they couldn't come away a decent point guard. And I think you want that on, if anything, you want a veteran, point guard leading a bunch of young guys. And the thing of it is, this isn't a situation like with Van Fleet and Amen Thompson. They don't really have anybody on the roster that's even promising for the future. I mean, I don't think Blake Wesley's ever going to turn out to be a star point guard, So yeah, that's why I'm lowering their grade a little, giving them an A minus. Anyone have a problem with that? All right.
No, I think you're right on.
Move on to Jake. We got only 3 teams to go, and Jake had the Raptors. Jake, your voice is hanging in there. Can you do one more team for us?
Yeah. Honestly, I think I don't know how it sounds for you. I think it's actually holding up better than I thought it would.
It doesn't sound bad at all. It just sounds like you're a little sick.
Yeah, and if that's the case, I can live with that. If it's like raspy and it's fading in and out, I can't live with that.
Right.
But gave Raptors a B plus for their draft. Picked up Brady Dick at 13, which I thought was tremendous value. We should have went a lot higher. They got Marquise Lamar, an undrafted free agent. Signed Dennis Schroeder. Signed Jalen McDaniels, who on the Sixers was pretty underwhelming, basically, for the entirety of his short tenure with the Sixers. But they gave him a 2-year deal worth not even $10 million. And they re-signed Jakob Poeltl. With a new coach, they don't have Van Vliet anymore. Siakam, who seems like has been in trade talks for a few years now. This looks like if there's any time that he'll be dealt, it could be now. But obviously, we can't evaluate that. But with the fact they got Grady Dick, haven't made a huge splash. They were able to re-sign Poeltl. I don't really know how I'm supposed to move off the B plus grade here. I'll listen to what you guys have to say. But it's not like they're going to compete. New coach, international guy. I'm not expecting much from them. So given what they did so far, I guess I can give them a B plus, maybe move it down to a B. Like, I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do here.
Well, my first question is, who's playing point guard for this team? Is Schroeder going to start?
Yeah, I mean that's
Or is Scotty Barnes? Is Scotty Barnes going to start at point guard?
You're downgrading a point guard. I don't think it was in the best interest of both parties to keep Van Vliet for that price. Like, they weren't going to be very good. They would have had to shell out a ton of money for him. Like, yeah, they're downgrading there. I would think Schroeder probably starts. To be honest.
Yeah, and to me, that's not great, because this team, the one thing that plagues them is not being able to shoot. And so why do you go out and spend money on Thaddeus Young? You know, they took his team option for $8 million.
Oh my God.
They signed Jalen McDaniels. So now they have a bunch of guys. They're like somewhere between 6'7" and 6'10". You know, it's that same thing, but yet they're guards. The guards of that team right now are Schroeder and Gary Trent and Malachi Flynn. That's their guards. They have 3 of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say I'm like baffled. Like, every time I hear Thaddeus Young's name, major credit to him. But like, I feel like he's been playing basketball my entire life. All I know is basketball with Thaddeus Young is he was on the Sixers. And like, he gets traded to the Wolves and the whole Anthony Bennett thing, and I think he was a Spur for a little bit. Like, credit to him for still playing, but I don't know what to expect from them. Like, like I said, they don't have Van Vliet. They bring in the international coach. Like, I don't really know what to make of them next year. Like, they only had the one pick, and I thought they made a really good one, Brady pick.
Yeah, but
I don't even know a rebuild. Like, I don't think it's a full-on rebuild until like Siakam gets dealt and they get whatever back in return, and then they like actually start to clear out. So I don't really know what to do with them right now.
I mean, yeah, I mean, to me, they're too good to tank. You know, they're too good to tank, and I think they're going to probably be around the 500 mark. But they need some guards. Damn it. They just got to move some stuff around here.
I think they were too good to tank as long as Van Vliet was on the roster. But I mean, now their offense was pretty middle of the pack, even with Van Vliet as their sole guard. I just think this team is really ready to blow it up. But too, I mean, I heard that they turned down trades. Like 3 first-round picks plus for OG Anunoby, which I think is insane. I think he's a good prospect, but
this is another team where Dame would fit in very nicely, and
he would. But I think too, they would be an example of, like we had talked about with the Nets, where to get him, they would have to give up the guys that they would want him to play with, But I think this could be another third team. Let's say, another third team for, say, the Heat to work with, if they're trying to attract Dame. Maybe OG Anunoby and picks would look more favorable than, Hero. I just think this team's ready to.
Well, what about Siakam and Dame in Anunoby? Siakam and Anunoby for Dame.
That team's not winning anything, though.
No,
that team's pretty. In my opinion, that team's
they
probably better than the Blazers are right now.
Yeah, they have to keep one of those guys to stay. Yeah, you're right. Yep.
But yeah, to me, this team doesn't make the playoffs next year pretty easily. I would probably drop their. I just think I would probably drop their grade down to like a B-.
Yeah, I would definitely come down from a B plus.
Yeah. I mean, Grady Dick's it's a really good value pick, but ultimately too, he's a shooter. He does some other things on the court that are nice, but at the NBA level, he's a 6'8" shooter. So not like a crazy pickup. And then, I mean, their free agency, they didn't bring anybody in that's going to change their.
I mean, they needed Schroeder. They needed somebody, but you don't want to be starting him. So, yeah. Yeah, I definitely, Drew, you can make the final call here. Cam said go down to B minus. I'm thinking B minus somewhere in there.
I'm kind of in the B range because I like the Grady Dick pick. I think Schroeder has value. I don't think they crazy overpaid him. They just brought him in to fill a role he's not super. They didn't overpay, but he's gonna have to fill a role that he's probably not qualified for. And I actually am a Jakob Poeltl fan. I think he's a good center. So I think a B is good because I don't think they bombed.
Yeah,
they didn't bomb free agency. It's just. It's going to be very telling if they do keep Siakam. They're going to have to try to make a splash next year. Next offseason is going to be they're going to have to decide: are we going all in or are we done?
Right.
Because I think this team is still competitive. It's just I
just don't understand why they don't move Siakam or Anunoby for get a goddamn point guard.
I would probably look to move Siakam out of the two. I think he's I don't know. I think Scotty Barnes can replicate enough of what Siakam does. I know they're different players, but he can replicate enough statistically. If they can move Siakam and get a real point guard, I mean, this team has talent. You have a legit center. Anobi's a legit defender. Grady is probably going to turn, we hope, and we think, into one of the better shooters, hopefully sooner rather than later. So this team's not dead in the water, but they're getting very dangerous to that no man's land of we're just stuck. Middling. So they got to make a move sooner rather than later. This is probably their last season to try to figure out what they want to do.
Right. I think they will make a move. I think they're going to be involved in one of these Harden, Dame trades. All right, let's move on to the Jazz, who we loved their draft. Cam, they haven't done anything since, really.
Yeah, I mean, the Jazz, we love their draft. They picked up Taylor Hendricks at 9. Keontae George is looking like one of the stars of Summer League so far, really scoring the ball well. Bryce Sensabaugh out of Ohio State at 28. And then as an undrafted free agent, they picked up Joey Hauser, kind of a taller shooter prospect. They didn't have any guys that they had to go out and re-sign. They're real. I mean, I would kind of say this is their. I mean, it was a draft night trade, but as far as an offseason move, picking up John Collins for next to nothing was an incredible value pickup. They really haven't done much outside of that. It was enough for an A.
Well, they're also going to get Paul Reed. They're going to get Paul Reed.
Yeah, they are going to get Paul Reed.
Thanks to dating age trickery.
Gosh. So, I mean, maybe the Paul Reed pickup is just enough for me to keep them at an A+. I think their draft night was beyond excellent. It's looking even better now that we're starting to see some results in the Summer League. I think an A+ is perfectly fine for a team that isn't looking to really add anybody in free agency.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I'm fine with leaving it right where it is. If you throw that John Collins is an off-season, an off-season move, it certainly matches the draft of an A+, getting Collins for nothing. Then you trick the Sixers out of Paul Reed. Yeah, I'm willing to give him. I would go no lower than an A, but I'm fine with leaving it an A+.
Yeah, that 33-10 by Keontae George is, man. If that's a sign of what they come, these dudes.
Right.
What if
we haven't seen Hendricks and Sensabaugh.
Hendricks
they're
hasn't
both
played.
mixed up. And Sensabaugh probably might not even play early on in the season, or he's probably destined for the G League this year. I
just am so mad. We did we need a big? How did we not get John Collins for nothing? What the hell? Like, I mean, I'm sure there's got to be
Danny
these
Ainge,
8,
man.
10 teams in the NBA going, that's all it took to get a guy who's going to give you, let's say you lower his role, he doesn't regain the shooting form, you're still going to get 16 and 8 and a block a game.
Yeah.
And even without the shooting, and you gave up nothing, literally nothing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's tough. I think with these guys like Collins, where they're on the trade block for so long, teams literally forget about them. Where it's like Danny Ainge was just the one guy who refused to forget that he was on the market like 2 years ago. And he gave him a call and was like, hey, I got, how about some second rounders? And they're like, oh, we haven't gotten a John Collins call in months. Let's take it. They didn't even think about shopping it.
Danny Ainge will probably end up with Siakam and Anunoby next year.
Yeah, and he's going to give him like 50 grand in cash and a handshake.
No, the minimum is 110.
He's going to give him 110 grand in like a selfie.
You have to give him 110.
Well, too, like that team pretty easily could have made the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
They didn't make the playoffs by choice. They're like, oh, this is a good draft. We might as well, tank it out the rest of the year, see what we can get. And man, I mean, they just keep adding to it already.
Watch them flip John Collins for something really, because they have Laurie. They're bringing in Hendricks. Like watch them, like, well, we don't really need another kind of big. Like and watch them flip him for some insane value. That's what's going to end up happening.
I don't know. I mean, they do have Hendricks, but if they flipped Collins, they would have to start, Semenich or Hendricks. And
I just mean like after a year or two.
Interesting enough, the other Luka, the Luka that's playing for Danny Ainge, is looking also really good in Summer League.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, he's going to come here, have a great year, and then they flip him for some like insane value.
Right.
Like Hendricks gets to develop behind him for like a year, get some feet, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, hey, who wants John Collins? And then some teams are like, I'll give you 2 firsts for him. And then they're like, okay, deal. And then Hendricks turns into the next John Collins, and they don't even. It's going to be insane.
Yeah, he'll be next year's equivalent of let's see, like Al Horford when he was coming off of OKC.
Right. Just nobody cared. Nobody cared. Yeah. Stick a fork in him.
Yeah. No, I can come back around for sure.
All righty. So we're going to wrap up the discussion with another camp team, and that's the Washington Wizards, who were very busy before the draft and draft night, but things have slowed down for them.
Yeah, I mean, we went into pretty deep depth on their draft night moves. That was most of their offseason. They really don't have a whole lot left to do. Mm-hmm. They ultimately ended up moving Monte Morris to Detroit for a future pick. Interesting move off. Of course, they're picking up Tyus Jones, so another veteran point guard. Might as well pick one. They went with Tyus Jones. They flipped Chris Paul after the Bradley Beal trade, brought in some more assets. Of course, the Brad Beal trade. Jordan Poole, I've seen, has already taken team pictures, has some sort of weird mutton chops. I don't know if that's a minus to their grade or not. Let's see what else. Oh, the big signing is they picked up Kyle Kuzma. Right. They managed to re-sign him. He clearly likes being in DC, which I think for a Washington team that has always struggled to sign free agents, you might as well hold on to the guy that likes playing there. And especially too, he was their best player last year. Even with KP having a pretty strong season, Kuzma was pretty much their everything, like both on defense and offense. Clutch shooting, handling the ball down the stretch. He was running pick and roll as the ball handler pretty often for them. Nice re-signing. They got him on a pretty good number too. He's actually kind of one of those guys where it's like, really? Nobody else wanted him for a little bit more than this? Okay. But bring him back in along with the, mediocre haul for the guys that they've sent out. Of course, they're also bringing in Bilal Coulibaly and Tristan Vukcevic out of the draft. We'll see how those guys look in Summer League. But, not a whole lot changed for them. Kuzma coming back was not all that surprising to me. I kind of figured that was going to happen. I think they're probably still just a B, just a flat B.
All right. I'm all right with that. I might move it up maybe a tad, but to a B plus, but I'm fine with a B. Anyone else?
I like a B. I think Cam had mentioned this last time, and I agreed. I would have liked to see them be a little bit more like aggressive and assertive in some of these trades, like that protection on the Warriors pick, for example. Like, why is that? Like, they should have been, I think, a little bit more aggressive and some like just to better suit themselves. I get that they were like, screw it, we got to rebuild. We'll take what we can get. But there's just a few moves I would have liked them to be a little bit more self-serving in. But I think a B is fine.
Yeah, and actually, you look at the roster. I don't know if it's the worst in the NBA. Honestly,
no,
it doesn't look half bad. I mean, it doesn't look good, but it doesn't look half bad.
Poole and Kuminga alone, Poole and Kuzma alone will win them some games. They'll both get hot on a night and both go for 30. Like, I mean, it's right. You have with the new CBA, you have to spend money. Like, you got to spend a bunch of money. So
right, you got to spend it. Or yeah,
you could do worse than Poole and Kuzma as some kind of cornerstone-ish guys to keep you relevant for the next couple of years while guys like Koulibaly develop.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's a team that I would like to see them make some other tank moves before the season starts. Obviously they're locked into Kuzma. Probably want to see Poole for a year, but some of these other guys on the fringes,
they're going to probably cut Gallinari and somebody will pick him up right away.
Yeah, they'll cut him for sure. I'd like to see them make maybe one more move just to move a little bit more talent, bring in maybe a first from somebody.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping that they would have already done that by now, but who knows? Maybe
Sixers will take Gallinari, somebody who can actually sit in the corner and make a shot.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Yeah.
All right,
Cool.
so looking over the top unsigned free agents, I put at the bottom. I put down my top 25. We won't go long on this. So just curious if there's anybody on here you guys like. I'll read off the top 10, and if you want to comment on any of them, go right ahead, guys. So I got PJ Washington, number 1. He's restricted. Christian Wood, number 2. Kelly Oubre, number 3. Ayo Dosunmu, number 4. He's also restricted. Trended Waterford, who was just cut by Portland not too long ago. Kendrick Nunn at 6. Bol at 7. Amadou Diallo at 8. Frank Ntilikina at 9. And Terrence Davis from the Kings at 10. By the way, there's some former lottery picks or near lottery picks on here, like RJ Hampton, Romeo Langford, I'm trying to think.
Justice Winslow.
Yeah, right. Justice Winslow.
Was like a top 5 pick, I think.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, any comments about this list? Not a ton of talent left over, but
it's pretty wild that Wood has still gone unsigned this late into free agency. I would have expected for him to either have a deal lined up with Dallas that was a little bit more favorable for their cap sheet, or he would been able to find somebody that was willing.
Well, he must be asking for too much money. That's the only thing I can think of.
Oh, I'm
From
sure.
what I've heard, he's only getting minimum offers right now. Like, I was reading something from, I forget which side, saying that pretty much every offer has been a minimum and he just hasn't taken it, or he's just compiling them to see like what he might be doing is at this point, knowing he needs to rehabilitate his standing in the league, he might just be compiling all these minimum offers and then see where the dust settles and goes, what team can I go to and like be on a winning program? Like, that might be what he's doing. He's like, if there's 15 offers, who has the best roster that I can go in, play these spot minutes, excel in, and then maybe win or be a big part of winning to try to recoup my value. That might be what he's doing at this point.
You know what's kind of funny? He might actually be able to go over to Europe and make more money.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, he totally
100%. He'd make it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he definitely could. Another guy that I kind of like on here, I really liked Doc's fit for Kelly Oubre on the Bucks. That's a team that just, offensively, I worry about that team so much. I just feel like once they got to the playoffs and everything slowed down, right, their defense wasn't quite good enough to carry them as it has in previous years. And then offensively, they just couldn't they couldn't hang with the more high-powered teams. Yeah, I think that would be a good fit. Oubre is a real scorer. He can be a little bit of a chucker, but he can give you some really efficient offensive nights off the bench. And then I can't believe Bol still hasn't been signed. I thought
apparently he's close to signing with Phoenix.
Yeah, I saw that rumor. I don't understand. I just don't understand why the Magic wouldn't want to re-sign him.
Right. Well, the only thing I could say is, I mean, apparently they like Batatse better than him. Batatse, I believe, is on a non-guaranteed contract, I believe they pushed his signing date out. So maybe they cut Batatse and sign Bol. I don't know.
Yeah, I'd like to see Bol go somewhere where he can play. Phoenix, he'll probably take he'll be taking over Aiden's minutes in a few months.
Yeah, when they need a physical center, they'll go to Bol.
Yeah.
Shit.
Just a guy like on the edges that I really love. I love Kabengele. I think Mfiondu Kabengele, he was really nice in the G League last year.
One of the most productive players in the G League.
Yeah, I mean, he rebounds. He's super aggressive. He can shoot the 3 ball now. I think he was over 40% last year in the G League. He was with the Red Claws, I think. I guess I assume that the Celtics have lost their sort of rights on him. But I don't understand why he didn't ever move up in their program. But I think he's a really nice depth piece for a team that's still looking for a center.
Yeah, he was a two-way, and they could have offered him a like a restricted qualifying offer, and they didn't. But you're right. I much rather have him than Luke Cornett.
Oh yeah, any day of the week I'd take him over Cornett.
Yeah, well, they went the other way.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, it was a good episode. Maybe next week we'll get to our next episode. We're going to be going every other week for a while here until September or toward the end of September. So that's an announcement I should make, going every other week. And the next time we show up will be in 2 weeks, and we'll be talking about Summer League recapping the Summer League play, the best players, and any developments that have happened in terms of, what players look good, what players didn't look so good. And and we'll keep on chugging along, and we'll have another college notebook and all that good stuff. So any final words, gentlemen? All right. Well, it was good effort. Good job, guys. And we'll say good night.